The old man Bill. The old man Bill. The old man Bill. The old man Bills. The old man builds is broken in the head. People not seeing reality has put them in the red. Where conscious and spirituality been stricken from the norm and replaced with the ignorance of basic magnetic form. The geometry of God keeps running through his head. That's what makes old man builds broken in the head. The old man builds. The old man builds. Spheres of destiny are spinning in his mind, making him travel back and forth in time, battling the establishment for just a little recognition. Has him forcing the world to understand his premonition. That world will have all the technology in the end, even if it means his life will fail to extend. The old man builds. The old man builds. The old man builds. The old man.
Hello, everybody, and welcome. My name is Nathan, otherwise known as Old Man Bills. What's up, Joe?
Wrong theme song, bro.
Dude, I totally...
Happy Friday. Not letting you get away with nothing today, buddy.
Dude, when I saw your face pop in, I'm like, oh, shit, I put on the wrong one.
You almost got away with it. I already noticed on the watch back. Always do the watch back. So what's going on?
Right out of the box, dude. Darren, awesome, brother.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, 5 Man Build membership. You're awesome, man.
Love it.
Dude, so dispatch came over this right before we started, my neighbor. And hooked me up with a sandwich, bro. It was really good.
Pretty jealous, because not gonna lie, I'm pretty damn hungry. But you know what? Good things in time, right?
Running straight from work, huh?
Yeah. I mean, it's a crunch, man, to get you get to 5 o'clock at my time. So I mean, I get off at 4:30, and that sounds easy. Well, Joe, you work from home. What's your excuse? Well, I don't always get off at 4:30 on the dot. Usually, in fact, I don't. But then I have everything to do to get ready before I sit down. So, regardless, it's all good fun. I make it work.
Nice. Dude, we're getting into kind of a little bit of a controversial topic for us. Usually we're all for free energy and stuff like that. I just thought it's important to kind of get into this a little bit. A lot of the systems out there, even when I watch them, you get just frustrated when you see a battery, right? You're like, you say it's over Unity. Why is there still a battery in the system? You say you're doing this much and the LEDs or light up in the lights. Why is there still a battery in the system? You know what I mean? You kind of get to this thing where it's like, okay, why is it there? Like, is there some other aspect to it we're not realizing? Is it not really over Unity? And I think people get upset by that.
Well, not for anything, but without a battery, it's kind of like trying to terrible. It's way too early to be terrible, Nathan. It's literally like trying to pee in your own mouth. You know what I mean? Like, not only is it not recommended to take it directly out of the system, okay, but it's just it's just a disaster. You need to be able to put the energy somewhere, and I think that's where the cells generally come in. That said, I agree. It doesn't really seem right. But you know what? You can disguise it in fun ways. You can add in a whole bunch of capacitors and stuff like that, and then have them dump off into other, you know what I mean? There's ways that you can hide it, but the fact is that taking it directly from point A, using it back at point B, and then also tapping off of it, generally a little difficult.
Well, that's why over Unity is not achieved by everybody. So here's the thing. I mean, to get to over Unity, you must first achieve Unity, isn't it? So you first have to loop your system to say, hey, I got more than what I put in, because it's not, how do I say, it's not the multimeter that tells you have over Unity. It's the fact that it can self-run. And I think that's where people get to an illusional state and they go, oh my God, look, I put in this much, I got this much out. But without the force of the current coming out of the wall or out of the battery, you don't really have that. You
Right.
have, yeah, you have a state that shows something like that, but you don't really have the force behind it. So as soon as you loop it, that force goes away.
Yep. Which is why you kind of got to store it and then bring it back in, because that you can do. And that's where it gets a little dicey. And the only situation that's not the case is, I mean, I guess there's a couple. One would be, but it's all kind of the same. The couple are all the same. You basically have to have your own ground state present in your system that acts as the well that the energy both goes into in a state of potential and also can be drawn from where that well is full. And without that, and that's the trickiest thing to get, I think, in any system. Without that, then you're going to be forced to have to dump it off somewhere else, and you're always going to need the kickstart to get it started.
Okay. So we'll divide it then. Okay. Say if we have a primary running loop system that is basically just like a battery, goes through a coil and then comes back to the battery, right? So you have just like a perfect loop right there. You know the value in it, you know you're going to run it down. Now you take a secondary system to that where it's open in the coil somewhere and you pull the energy out. Okay. So that would be an open loop to your closed loop system. Now, if you get more energy out of that, is it convertible back to the battery? So at that, when you separate it that way, is that acceptable as an over unity system?
I mean, as long as that's as long as it's giving you off the draw, and the more that you're hooking up, the more it's kind of giving you, and you're able to produce more than it takes to keep it going, and you can keep everything pretty much full, your battery charges at 100% sort of deal. Then at that point, I mean, I do think that it's over unity objectively, just because what's able to come out is greater than what it takes to run.
So let me ask you this. Okay, so if we look at the amp hours on the battery, we say, okay, under this load, it should die within a day and a half, right? What would be the multiplying factor to get you to say it's over unity? Would you say if you go 3 days before you shut down your unit, are you over unity then? Because now you doubled the time.
No, you're not over unity then, because um, you all you did was you had a net gain off of what was being used in that case, but you're still not keeping up with the draw. And that's sort of the point. You need to be able to keep your situation running and also be able to keep up with the draw. So the battery shouldn't go dead. And I mean, obviously there's going to be situations where if your draw is that heavy, then for that draw, it's not over unity, but for itself, for what goes in versus what comes out, it is. So I guess those are the two lenses that we're trying to separate from here.
So if it goes 3 days and it's the day and a half runtime it's supposed to, and it still has a full battery at the end, would that satisfy the implications of it?
I mean, at that point, that would be pretty indicative that you're creating more than you draw.
I
I'd have
agree
to
with
say.
that.
Yeah, that you're creating and you're keeping up with that. Yeah, because the well is full, right? And
Mhm.
that's sort of the key. The well is full. Um, Interestingly, right? Why not just simply loop? And it goes back to the terrible example that I gave. And what I'm about to say is um, a visual. I don't mean it actually, so don't chastise
Okay.
me. Okay. But if you think about it as, you know, your your current and then your return, okay, it sort of works like inversely of each other. And a push pull, right? Or if you want to think about it as a pulse state, pulse sequence, whatever you want to think about it as. There's a nature of it being inverse, which is why it sort of works like that as a return. Um, if you just simply take from the same end to put back in, you're pushing at the same time. There's nothing to pull back.
Okay.
Stops immediately, right? And that's the whole entire point of your ground state having to exist. You need to be able to put it back so then it could be dispersed to, where the pull is just potential and then it could be pushed and vice versa.
So I kind of bring something that Timtron said to the surface. He was doing his system where he had one energy goes to loop. There was a secondary pull off from that where he put it to a cap bank, right? And what he did was when the system got to chugging, he'd put the energy from the cap bank into the system so that it would keep going, right? Be efficient. And we're talking about motors running or generators, stuff like that, right?
I got you.
And then when it was going really fast, he would dump it all into the cap bank for the extra energy. When it just got the centrifugal force going on, he pulled it out. So in that way, he's able to charge a second or third battery in that unit while keeping the thing running properly, just by putting some back in when he needed to.
Mm-hmm. I think that a major issue with everything in general is the way that stuff is built. It's not built to use the energy efficiently either. If everything was kind of synchronized as to what bands it runs in, frequency bands, at that point, everything would run at super high efficiency.
I agree.
Because you'd have a lot of resonance, lots of more power amplification ability, for at a much lower energy cost. And then because I'm going to use one of my favorite words, things are in resonance, they exhibit laminar properties in terms of their flow and vectoring, and that leads to high efficiency and less losses. It's anytime that you're asking one current frequency to do something, to do work on something that's not in frequency and not in resonance with it, that's just pushing the ball uphill at that point. Of course, you're going to burn a lot more energy doing that, have a lot of losses. You prevent those losses when you incorporate it as a more holistic approach.
So laminar flow, the stream stays steady. But when you put in different frequency, you're putting your finger in the stream and it basically blasts off everywhere.
Isn't that the case, right? Yeah, right. The stream stays steady, so you could hit your disgusting target directly out of the tap. And then when you've had enough, you put your finger there and it goes, and then it's not laminar anymore. Correct. Yeah, but exactly, it stays together, and when it stays together, you don't get the little bits and pieces that fly off and splash.
Yeah. Well,
there you go.
Pretty reasonable.
Right on.
So I wanted to bring up, I know some people did LEDs and lumens, and they say, well, it's bright and I've got more to do. I'm going to tell you like a little ugly secret here that we all should know. Anytime you get an RF, there's a way to flip it to get radiation out of it that'll take LEDs and light up as many as you want. And Joe and I saw this day when I took that second coil, put it down my Tesla coil, and we started lighting up those LED bulbs. They were getting super bright. And it's kind of like something you have to be very, very nervous of when that's all you're doing. Okay.
Tends to be a little bit of a party trick with that, isn't it? It's like the whole thing about it is that, you can excite those filaments relatively easily. And, because they're able to pick up on the radiant energy, basically, as long as it's in the range of that field, it's going to pick it up, it's going to excite it, it's going to light it. So if you had a whole entire bag of LEDs and allowed for enough time for each of them to fall into, a state of excitation with that radiant field, I mean, there's no God-given reason why each and every one of those really shouldn't light up. Mm-hmm. And then you could sit there and look at their power input per piece and test the lumens and say, okay, this is what they're lighting up. So therefore, I have this much, you know, energy, over unity energy that I'm creating, and it's exponential, right? At that point. And it's interesting because if you think about it, the fact that they lit up and it generally takes XYZ to light it up, if the result is there, hey, cool, then I understand that. That's an observable effect and it's calculable, right?
Mhm.
But does that actually mean that if you were to have one unit, this is where the difference comes in. If you were to have one unit that ran minimum at the cumulative energy of everything you just calculated, would you get it to operate in that same radiant field? Probably not.
Hmm.
Probably not. So did you? That's rough. There's a bell curve. It's like a minimum site of excitation and functioning, and then the ability to fall in deeper into resonance and get a greater potential out of it, right? Versus if you couldn't necessarily just kickstart something that took all that energy and needed that total amount as a minimum running power, you just couldn't necessarily like fall in. It might fall in eventually, but it's gonna like you don't hold your breath. like so
Well, I think at that point, our understanding of the power source needed to run those things was wrong. Like, because LEDs are strange little bits, man, when you do start messing with RF. The same thing when you get to gas, because you're exciting the gas instead of, heating up the gas. In a way like that. So it's kind of a little misunderstanding of how these stuff runs because you go, oh man, you got, 4-foot light bulbs and they light up. How many watts are they? Well, it doesn't matter how many watts they are because I'm exciting the gas. So the watts are irrelevant.
right, it's doing it a different way.
Yeah.
But aside from that though, and this is how you would know, is that anytime you're using anything that works off of RF, just generally, even, and by the way, you could wire your current and it's still RF. Like there should be a when you have a high voltage that's throwing off RF, and then you actually capture that high voltage and then run it to something,
Mhm.
as if it's going to leave again without creating a full circuit, you're still dealing in RF. This is how that goes, right? So it takes a lot more time and initial energy in order to reach the minimum excitation of certain things. Okay, but once you get it going, you could start dialing it all back quite a bit and still sustain the excitation at much lower energy levels because you allowed for the minimum level to be achieved in the first place. So you started the reaction, right?
Mhm.
Um, and again, it could happen at lower energy levels, but it would take so long that it becomes like a silly point. So you need to get it to a certain level to start it up, then you could back it all the way down. That's how it goes.
So I wanted to get into this a little bit. And it has to do with how things go through a coil and why things are done a certain way. And I'll say this: you always see like you have some kind of device, then you see a transformer, then you see a full bridge rectifier, and the question is, why is it done like that? And I'll tell you very clearly: a magnetic field is a backstop in order for you to be able to have a driving force to run a motor. Okay. And I did this with my Rodin coil. You saw it, Joe. I ran the
Mhm.
thing and I did my motor with the regular power, and then I did it with the Rodin coil and it lost power. I had absolutely zero backstop. So I put in the capacitors after the coil and it gave me a little easier of a run, but it still wasn't enough for a backstop. So normally what they say is, okay, you need a core in there because the level of the magnetic core that goes in there is a saturation field. Once you have a saturation field in a metal core, you have a backstop. Now, when it goes to the full bridge rectifier, it has pressure because the magnetic field keeps filling up. You know what I mean? So it continues that pressure through the line. I don't think a lot of people understand that when they deal with the motors and systems and how they run. So I wanted to make sure I said that because when we go to transfer energy, like I was doing earlier, it becomes one of the most imperative factors on whether you are successful or not.
Yeah, I mean, the transformer is a great example, like you just said, of exactly how that transfers. Is you have a heavier gauge wire and less coils, in direct relationship, and allowing for the induction onto a thinner gauge wire and a lot more coils, and that allows for the transfer to increase the voltage or decrease the voltage, depending on which way it's going. And that's sort of the point of it. Is it is a pressure equation because you're distributing a certain amount of current that's traveling you know amongst, I'll say, right, a certain resistance of wire, okay, and then creating a minimal magnetic field on one side versus the inverse of that occurring. So something has to change, and that relationship is the voltage and amperage. And realistically, because whenever you have a voltage and an amperage shift, you also generally have a frequency change.
Yes,
So,
always.
right, I'm trying to be loose and fast here.
Oh,
So,
okay. Go
yeah,
ahead.
yes, you have a frequency change. For your residential power, that may not make all that much of a difference, but for the stuff that we talk about, well, it makes all the difference in the world.
Yeah, I wanted to put that out there because I was actually shocked about how bad it was. Because we talk about the RF, and this is why it went into the Rodin coil, because I was getting RF through it. So the light bulbs look the same. You could visually look at them and say, okay, we're pretty even right here, right? No need for a meter. We're good. But then when you put a load test on it, the power just went significantly down. It just killed it. And I was trying to think of why. And I go, okay, what about if I had a core in this thing? Would it change it, right? And I thought, okay, what about a Joule thief? What is a Joule thief circuit doing on a Rodin coil? Well, it's saturating the core. That's the idea of the Joule thief. But the problem is a regular Joule thief has a ferrite core to it. Okay, the Rodin coil doesn't. So there's no backstop. You can't saturate the ferrite when there's no ferrite, right?
Right.
So I ran a little test, and I'll probably show it here right now. And then I wanted to get into right after I do into the volts and amps and watts, because those watts are going to lie to you. Okay, big time. So give me 1 second.
So, well, yeah, while you're doing that, people might not like me as much after today's episode. That's okay. I'm okay with that. It's all for the sake of discussion, folks. But there's a lot of good party tricks out there, I'll tell you that, especially when it comes to circuitry. And the question that I ask you is, are you creating more energy if you're just simply making it more usable and efficient? Are you bringing more energy out of a system, okay, if you're just making it more usable? Because that's really the question you ought to be asking yourself. And that's what a lot of the circuits end up doing, in my opinion, is just making it more usable. Okay, so less will do it. Okay, and you're not actually getting any more out of these things, mostly. Okay, it's just simply giving you a better outcome. Now, the better outcome is great because the outcome is what we look at. But what does that do? Well, that makes your measurements lie to you. That makes your measurements lie to you because you think you're doing something that you're not. You think that you're using more than you are, and that's just simply not the case. It's just simply changing the circumstances of the operation of what's working off of it most of the time. And that's kind of how I feel about the Jewel Thief. Just saying, that's absolutely how I feel about the Jewel Thief. You know, and again, in my opinion, it's a neat little non-over Unity anything party trick.
Well, it deals with saturation by putting it through both sources, right? But at some point, the saturation goes away because you're not having the LED on all the time. But when you leave it on all the time, you no longer get the ability to use a Jewel Thief because it's starving for energy.
Mhm.
That's the party trick. Let's turn it on for a minute, show that it works. Let's leave it on all day, and you'll see it sputtering like crazy. That's the answer. It's a party trick.
Mhm.
So, all right, let me show my party trick here. So just a little bit of context of this. I'm trying to transfer energy from a Tesla coil to anything. Okay, at this point, because I've tried capacitors, I've tried the full bridge rectifiers. It has too high of a frequency to do anything with. But the power lines outside have a super high frequency. They're dumped into a transformer and then they work. So we're doing something wrong. That's why I did this whole thing. To show everybody this experiment, I was wondering if we can convert power back through an AC flyback from a Tesla coil. So I have my Slayer exciter connected right here. I have my Tesla coil. And then right here, I have both wires on the end going over to my AC flyback. And then both of those just connected to positive and negative over here on AC voltage. So I'm going to set this thing up, and I'm just going to throw right here. I'm going to turn this thing on, and I simply want to know if there's power coming through it.
How was that gelato, Nathan?
What's that?
So how was the gelato?
Right now I'm at 16.9 on my Tesla coil. And as you can see, we're picking up a rating on here. Now it's fluctuating pretty bad. But there it is. And there's the breakout on my Tesla coil. Just the one wire. And we're getting energy through it. Is this a perfect test? By any means, no. But we're definitely getting somewhere. My theory was simple. An AC flyback would be equal on both sides going into a magnetic field that creates in the core, which would pulse this one right here in order to get a value coming out of here. Because this is less winds and heavier wire, and this is more winds and thinner wire, my theory was if we run it in reverse, we can then get a usable voltage out of this side. Maybe it just works to put it in a cap bank, but it would be a stopgap for a Tesla coil in order to convert energy. So, is it perfect by any means? No. Is it need more investigation? Absolutely. Okay. So, the biggest problem was you see it fluctuating, but it's also an AC. So, you got to remember the sine wave goes like this. It goes up and down, up and down, and up and down. We're not accounting for any of that. How fast was it? You know what I mean? Things like that. It wasn't accounting for that. Once it goes into a full bridge rectifier and then into a capacitor, it'll smooth out, right? But I still think we're under the amount that we put into our Tesla coil. We're at 17 volts. We're getting anywhere from 9, maybe 10 volts, you know what I mean? When we're lucky out of that thing. So I still think we're under. I pulled a test for the amperage. It said 4 amps. I do not believe that in any way. I think it's more like 1 amp. You know what I mean? Because I know that the ferrite core got hot, so we had a conversion. You know what I mean? And I think some of the fluctuating could be because my little things aren't tied in perfectly. I should have probably clamped them. But the whole concept is can I take a high voltage from a power line, drop it into a coil with a lot of windings with thin wire, make it pulse that core, and then go over to the other side and get another winding to start up. And it came out. So in that, I got already better than what I got on my Rodin coil. And I think I'm going to be able to run a motor off of this thing, which is the first time I can run a motor off a Tesla coil. But it still means that I would need to put a duty cycle in it and a frequency change in it on the inside of it, just to get the motor to run properly. I mean, just to make sure it's leveled out, just to make sure that it builds up the cap right, things like that. So it's still not over unity, and not even unity. It's like a loss of at least 30%.
Well, it would be though. And the thing about a Tesla coil is what we were talking about before already, which is its ability to especially with Slayer, like we've said 1,000 times, the ability to pull other things into resonance with it. And you can multiply the amount of energy that you get simply by having it throw other coils and stuff into inductive resonance. So, it kind of does act as a multiplier, and that's the functionality of it, not to mention the things that you're able to do within its effective field. And realistically, that doesn't take away all too much from it. Now, I mean, interestingly, this also goes right back into the ground state of things, right? Because when you use the Tesla coil and the center energy, like you said 1,000 times before, and you use that to actually take a ground state in potential, and you use that to then oscillate that potential, now all of a sudden you have exponentially more potential based on the amount of mass that you're putting it in and what it's able to oscillate. You see, and it's all about that mass. So usually the mass acts as a draw, right? So the more mass that you have, kind of the more work it's got to do to get the same thing done. And again, it takes more time then. Time catches it up. But if you take it and you're able to bring a ground state, which has potential in it, into resonance with it, well, then all of a sudden you basically activated that ground state into a whole nother power supply, the power potential that's ready to be used. The amount that you would get out of it and the reach of it would be based on the mass. And usually the areas are huge. And this is why liquids are great for things like that. You get into a liquid, you can throw it into that state rather easily, just based on the current, and then bring it into a slightly vibratory state where if it's in a ground state and it has all that potential, it's ready to give it all to you. So then you can light up all your damn light bulbs because the mass will keep up with it. You see, that's how that goes.
So we had somebody ask in the chat why I didn't use the center of my Tesla coil to do the experiment. Well, it's kind of like the secret weapon in the device. You want to see if you can't get it as close to unity as you can. And is that ground state, like you said, my over unity? Because it's at that point when you put it down the center, it's a pump, right? But can I put a capacitor in between the ground and my pump? See, because that may give you my extra energy that I need to push it back to the full amount. Because now I'm using both sides of my coil, right? So,
legitimately, you can literally put a circuit in between there that just acts as a switch. That every single time you hit over a certain voltage, it'll just sit there and put it in, like a trap door,
Yeah.
So every time it triggers, it's like, well, trap door opens, the extra energy goes into the bucket, extra energy in the bucket, and that's sort of how it goes, I think.
That's what I was saying, just like Timtron was saying. You know what I mean? The exact same way.
Yeah. I mean, once you see, I told you guys a bunch of times. I went to school for welding, okay? But before I did that, I took 1 year of residential electrical, okay? And
Oh, right on.
that was supposed to be a 3-year situation. Let me tell you something. How far I know me? 35 minutes, perfect. I fucking hate it, okay? I legit, like, there was not one thing I like about residential electricity, okay, or anything electrician related. This, on the other hand, is something else. What did that experience teach me about any of this? Nothing. Why? Because it does not work the same. They don't use it the same, and it doesn't work the same, and nothing is rigged. And everything is rigged up to not do any of this.
Right.
That's what it comes down to. So once you rinse your mind of how things generally work, and then you just realize exactly how things move, then you shall understand. And that's where this ground state thing is. Ground, they use the ground, so less houses will burn down, less people will die.
Yeah.
Why
That's
does it
it.
go? Ask yourself the question: why does it go there? Well, when we build the RAV, why does that arc try to find the other side of the clay? Why does it do that? Well, that's because the other side of that energy is right there pulling it on in, saying, "Hey, you gotta come on this way. We need to connect, right?" Well, that's exactly it. So that means there's energy in the ground. So okay, cool. We're not using it.
Yeah, there's energy in the ground everywhere.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah, there's no getting around that. No, it's everywhere.
And anytime you have a large enough area, or and that's proportional to what you are working with, right? Um, that will act as a ground state. Once your mass, okay, and the power potential in that mass exceeds that of your system. You see, that's how that ground state works. So when you're creating an artificial ground state, okay, what does that mean? Well, that means that you have a certain point inside your system that just simply has a higher density, okay, and potential than the rest of the system. Okay, so because that area of the flow has that highest compressed potential, well, everything either comes from or goes to it. Right? That's how pressure works.
Mhm.
And I say mass, but that's why I'm not saying size or weight or whatever, because at the end of the day, if it's high density and low volume, well, that's the same
Mass.
thing, isn't it? It's mass.
Yeah. Well, I agree with you. I don't have any problem with that.
Yep.
I think the same way. So I want to get into this a little bit. The volts and the amps and the watts. The watts are kind of a lie, and I'll tell you why right now. I know everybody likes to get it. Hey, what's your volts? What's your amps? If 1 volt was equal to 1 amp, then watts would be true. The problem is how many volts does it take you to create an amp? And that's more difficult than you think. That's I would say that's an algebra problem in itself. Okay. It's not 1 to 1. That's why watts are a joke. I don't even know why they come up with the term. Okay. So every time you put in the volts, it's going to take you, you know what I mean, at least 10 volts to get 2 amps out of a system. Okay. So you have more volts than there are amps. But when you do wattage, it's volts times amps. That's a problem because now if I up the voltage to 60,000 volts and give you 0.0052 of the amperage, you're going to have a major problem on your hands when you go to convert it back because you're going to think, I can convert all of that voltage into amperage because that's what my watts told me I can do. Well, that's just a flat out lie. It doesn't work that way.
I'm on board with what you're saying. There's a time and a place for wattage, I'd have to say. It's good to understand the overall power or consumption, of something, because realistically, you have to have some type of understanding as to, you know, how much and how much push, like that's the equation. The fact that it's 1 to 1, it makes it a proportional relationship algebraically, right? So that is what it comes down to when calculating it, is that it is,
I mean,
if you have less than a volt but more than an amp, well, it's an inverse relationship when these things go up and down if your watt amountage is fixed, right? And you could always figure out one or the other as long as you have two. So that's sort of what it comes down to, is that relationship that it has. Now, as far as what you're saying, as far as it being like a good measure or not, I mean, I tend to see it that way when we're talking about and dealing with things like we're dealing with. That's why you never hear me almost ever talk in volts or amps. Almost ever, is because it is very disconnected from what makes things work in these systems. You know, I mean, there's that relationship where like that you have to increase the voltage, right, in order to increase the power of something to get a different result. But the way that I even look at that is the effect that that has on the frequency, and whether or not that frequency is regulated. That's sort of the way I think about it. I don't know. It's what helps me understand. So I'm on board with you. But as far as like running something for practical purpose, I mean, the wattage has a meaning.
well, I guess what I'm getting to is, in an over unity system, if you tell me the amount of watts in it, you'd be better off telling me the volts and amps. You know what I mean? Then I can better calculate what you're doing. But when you start just pushing off and saying watts, I have no idea what your system is. And when I go to convert, since they're not 1 to 1, I get an imperfect calculation all the time.
So,
And
so
that's why I say it's a lie.
So I mean, this is where it gets a little dicey, right? Because it's like, to measure in, measure out, yeah, watts would be good. But then there's like also that inverse relationship that exists too between your voltage and your amperage. So that if you've just done a whole bunch of changes to get different readings in and out, that your voltage and your amperage also change. And nobody's there to say whether you have usable, like the Tesla coil. You don't have usable amperage. So you just have, you could get whatever reading it is, but at the end of the day, it's not usable. Now, by the time you go back correcting it, well, that, to bring it back, to usable amperage, now all of a sudden you've suffered probably more losses than it took you to get whatever wattage gain you got at the end. So it becomes a bad way of looking at it, I don't know. It's sort of what I'm thinking.
The only problem, they usually use it for getting joules of energy, right? How many joules are you running of energy in a system, and they use it as a base calculation. Okay, I don't like using it for the one reason I stated, and I think it fools people, and this is the problem I have with it. Okay, it's fine if you're just using it to get your joules of energy. Okay, I can understand that. All right, we know better. We should put it multiplied by a certain fraction, but nonetheless, if that's all you're doing, it's getting a base estimate of your joules of energy, it's fine. But when you're going to calculate an over unity system, it has to be very accurate. And the more inaccuracies you have, the more rounding errors you have, the bigger problem you have. It immediately puts it from, is it possible, to complete poo. You know what I mean? Just immediately. You're going, okay, I don't believe you at all, because when I converted it, I couldn't get the same answer. And that's the problem.
Yeah.
That's when everybody rebuilds it, that's their problem. Because had you told me the exact volts and amps, I would look for that in the system. And then I'd say, okay, check mark here, check mark here. I should, in the end, have the same as you because I checked it off as I went by. And that's not what they get. They go,
Yeah.
I got a wattage, and you're going,
well, I mean, so the whole thing with that is that the math equation, to be able to break that down at every point in the cycle becomes extraordinarily convoluted and then difficult to also compare, because then you need to do more math in the comparison too. So none of the, and so, and I get it. And trust me. I mean, right? If something's, 150 watts, right? Well, it could easily be 150 volts, one amp or whatever, and like, is that going to kill you? Probably not. No, no. But uh, you know, one volt at 150, probably not the best.
Well,
So
okay. So we talk about high voltage a lot, right? And how we build it. When we're putting in, like, say in our ZVS unit, we put in 20 volts, right? Seems a pretty even number we're used to working with. You're hitting on the other side of that flyback a huge number on voltage, right? They go, oh my God, we got 60,000 volts. And they go, don't let it shock you, it'll kill you, right? And I'm looking at it going, there's no amperage in it. The amperage is so low, it's like not there. But we know it's there, okay? That's where I think people get confused, because they go, oh my God, if you have, 60,000 volts, how many watts do you have? Well, it's the voltage times, the amperage. And what's your amperage? 0.0000, you know what I mean? So
Yep.
you would think it'd be the same amount of watts. It's actually down. You know what I mean? So it's a confusing thing when you go to talk about it in the systems that we build. If you just want to calculate it for your home use, you're probably just fine. You know what I mean?
all right, we've talked about annoying shit for a while now. Want to move
Okay,
into
guys.
you want to move this into the juicy part of this conversation, which is there are a lot of people that are doing what they believe is good work, okay, who are fucking grifter charlatans for whatever reason. For whatever psychological reason they have going on, okay? Whether it's willful ignorance, after that much testing, delusion, or just their ego deciding, I don't really care, I'm going to take everybody for a ride. There's just a lot of people that seem and act good-willed out there, who are missing the train. Because I can't definitively say anything, but like, there realistically is only a couple of different ways to get over Unity. Okay. Your first way to get over Unity, and we've kind of talked about most of them already, not all of them, but your first way is, again, to be able to have a high efficiency system with everything in resonance. Okay. At the point where you're able to recycle that. Now that's more or less Unity at that point, but you could still consider that over Unity, because there might be instances where the draw is less than what it takes to, the draw off is less than what it takes to run it. So then you end up with a little bit more because it's just cycling like that. So that's one instance, and you could expand it by your mass and your ability to put that mass into resonance externally. That's way number one. Way number two is kind of similar, except rather than have that mass outside of your system, you have that mass inside of your system. Okay, well, what the fuck does that mean? Well, that means that you have cavitation. Okay, there's
yeah.
no other way to put it. You have to have cavitation, because that cavative effect is the 0 point vector that allows for that well of over unity to exist. That acts as your ground state. Because again, well, what is that ground state? It's this mass density of potential, and if you do not open up that well through cavitation, then you don't have it. And cavitation is always visible, by the way. There's not an instance where cavitation is not visible. Cavitation lights up like the sun. You know, if it happens underwater and you pull a vacuum out of nothing and water with sound, what does it do on the collapse as it lights up? You know, and that's the nature of cavitation, is that it's in a pulse state of expansion and contraction, um, and sustained, meaning that it always has a light emission, meaning that it's always visible. So anytime you see something that doesn't have a pulsing ball, okay, they have a really good party trick and they're working on efficiency. And there's nothing wrong with that. And that's what I'm going to say, is that there's nothing wrong with that. Okay. But as far as measurable power in, excess measurable power out, there you go. That's what it is. Unless if you have the pulsing ball. You have the pulsing ball, you have overunity. Okay. Now, if you have the pulsing ball as a result of a coil system, okay, a lot easier. Okay, because since it's as a result of a coil system at that point, it already has a relationship with all the other electromagnetic energy vectoring stuff that not only created it, but also takes from it and gives to it, which is why it's a well. Okay, so it could become somewhat self-sustaining at that point, and you could also take off of your coil then at that point, which is in a state of you know RF emission, to then use it and do things like you're doing, whatever. There's ways to do it. You can tap out of that well, or with a core too. You can tap out of that well. If you're doing like what we're doing with RAV, okay, it becomes a little bit different because you really can't interfere with the ball.
No.
So, yeah, can't interfere with the ball. So you need an external component. So it's sort of the inverse way of doing it. Now, this will upset people, I guess, but guess what? I ain't never seen a fucking glowing, cavitating ball in the middle of anybody's coil.
No.
Okay? You know why? Because I'm not saying it can't be done, but ain't nobody I ever known did it. And the reason is because the amount of energy you need to run through there, okay, and in sequence, it needs to be this very precise step up linear sequence of events and modulation, because if you don't form the ball, the energy amount the energy it takes to form the ball is so high, material failure is guaranteed. Okay, so that's sort of what it boils down to, with it, and that's it. Like, so yeah, is there a way? Absolutely. Has anybody done it? People have said they have, but I haven't seen it. So no. And aside from that, there's people working with circuits only and small coil arrays and stuff. Again, efficiency equation. So there you go, folks.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of that going on. And let's just face it, some of these systems that we look at were never meant to create an over unity state. They have different attributes to them. And I think people get lost in that because I think every coil that's wound, we're looking for that. And I'm going to tell you right now, 90% of them aren't looking for that at all. What frustrates me is when I've done coil tests and I see things and people try to say, oh, get more in than out, and they miss the complete point of the coil. It's like there's a different state of energy in there you should be looking for that you have no idea where it is. If you're not talking about that and you're not saying, hey, I got this thing and this thing totally blew my mind to where it is, right? So for instance, I could have took the center of my Tesla coil and just said, hey, look, I got a little extra free energy right here. Let me zap this, zap that, and I'm done, right? Instead, I realized it for what it was. Hey, this is a different type of energy. Let me put a bunch of testing into it and show you what it did, right?
Mm-hmm.
Totally cool process of going on. That's what frustrates me about a lot of coil builders is they go, oh, well, it just gave me this, and I'm a one-trick pony with this. And I'm going, well, where's the rest of it? Like, I know what it does. Where's the rest of it?
Yeah.
Why are you not talking about that? That pisses me off. Okay.
All
And
right.
I always leave a comment and say, did you find a little extra here? Did you find a little, little this to see if they get their mind going to see the next video?
So Jeff in the comments says, well, how would we explain the Kashmir effect? I'm assuming he doesn't mean generally. I'm assuming he means in context of this. Well, the answer to that is actually both interesting and it actually correlates with exactly what we're saying. Because whenever you take two plates or two fields, by the way, you don't need two plates, okay, for Kashmir effect. You could simulate Kashmir effect with compression.
Yes,
Digress,
energy states.
we see it all the time. I digress, right? When you take the two plates and you bring them together and there becomes that force between them, okay, that's because energy is running between them. And then all the electromagnetic modes of vectoring modes, okay, become present in the area and actually pull a cavitative state apart, which, as I said, when there's a cavitative state occurring, well, what do you get out of that is light. Now, because the plates are so close together and they're really only letting a narrow frequency band through, generally you're going to get a coherent laser type light, which is exactly what you see with the Kashmir effect. So there you go. It is literally mechanically forced cavitation in that circumstance. And the materials are at play.
Well, you're forcing the energy to compress so that you're getting more of a radiation out of it, which means that, yeah, you are getting a bit of over unity out of it because of the radiation.
Right, but what? Okay, so what's going?
That's only an environmental condition.
Hold on. Yeah, that's the point they like to talk about. But riddle me this, Joker. The part that they never talk about. What happens to all the energy that can't make it through the channel?
Oh, well, that's all done.
Right, it's filtered out, right? Filtered out. No, well, it goes around the plate on the other side. Does it still exist? Yeah. Where does it exist? Outside the plate? What's it doing? Well, it just got rejected from the inside of the plate. Did its vector change? Fuck yeah, it did. See? Like, use your noodle, deductive reasoning, things people don't talk about. You see, like, it's not only one thing. If you have broadband frequency and this is filtering out a very narrow band and then adding to the compression, right? And then cohering it and then giving you that extra by causing cavitation. Well, all the shit that didn't make it through went on top of it and is doing something now. And what's it doing? Not what's going on inside, or else it'd be there. Okay. And how many vectors of electromagnetism are there realistically? Well, you have static state, current state, magnetic state. That's where, and scalar, and that's pretty much what you have. Right?
Yeah, but you see, even at the way that they're doing it, they're not thinking of it the right way. Because the Casimir state's fine, or even like this in order to create direction or propulsion, right? But you go like this, what's the biggest point of the Casimir state? It's to pull it apart quickly and create a vacuum so the energy pulls in so that you're able to pull the energy from the environment. So as you create it in a bunch of radiation field around it, you pull it this way and then it jumps into the center and creates the mass energy. I think it's a misunderstanding of the Casimir effect altogether. They're not putting it all together.
Yeah, they're right. When you pull those plates apart, everything that's concentrated between them, like okay, so when you have cavitation, the release of energy is always on the expanse. It's at the point of greatest expanse. So when it's pressing in, it's, if you think about a piston, makes sense, right? You're pressing in, can't press in anymore. Now it expands. Well, where's the power come from? Power comes from the stroke, right? The
Jeff
downstroke.
agrees. He's there with us.
Bang! There you go. Okay, and that's what you do. So, again, sometimes it's good and it's minimalist. Okay, and minimalist is good often.
Mhm.
to look at things for the easiest explanation. Well, you get the laser because it coheres the waveforms, and then you put, and it's like that makes sense. So cool, go with it. That's all you need. So cool, go with it. If you don't ask yourself the other questions, then you will never have the full picture.
No, I agree.
And just because it's not part of the what you see doesn't mean it's not a result of what you get. So,
okay. Oh, real quick, I just want to throw this out there. The Traveling Fools channel, by the way, I'm going to go on there a little bit later tonight, man. So I'm going to give them a shout out. Anytime you guys want to stop in and pop in, I left the link in the email if you want to stop in and promote what's going on. So,
right on. You'll send me an invite. I'll ruin your channel for you. It's good. You'll get way more publicity than last week.
Oh, only Joe. Oh, man. Nah, it's all good, man. I was listening to Gutter's Pub this morning, man. And Fools was right, man. They were talking about RVs like most of the time that I was on there, which was actually hilarious, by the way.
That's awesome.
And I loved it. I mean, I don't think people realize, man, I got a big Dodge 4x sitting out there that, with the Cummins diesel, man, we used to have a fifth wheel hitch in the back and you throw up a 30 further behind that thing, man. It was totally awesome. Dude, it was pulling up hills like it didn't exist with that Cummins in there. That thing's a monster motor, bro.
Yeah.
So anyway, I was all into that stuff. You know what I mean? Because it was part of my life for years with my father-in-law, and he goes to bird shows, and you know what I mean. You take the RV out there, we'd load up all the cages in the back and everything, and sell them and sell birds, all that stuff.
Listen, dude, you want to talk about high wattage, low voltage, high amperage? That Cummins got it going on.
Oh, that motor's awesome, bro.
Oh yeah,
nothing like it.
Pushing the goddamn oil can around.
Dude, we were like, I got mine before they put the high output in it. So it was the 1 year before. So it was capable of doing it. You just had to put in the computer chip in order to do it. So I did put that computer chip in, man, and that thing was a monster. That thing was like a 6-cylinder, just it was a machine, man.
Awesome.
Right on, brother. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Yeah, I had so much fun last time I was on there. I get in a lot of trouble like I always do because I'm always a little edgy, but that's all good, man. It was a real fun time, man.
I mean, listen, I mean, it really was. I mean, it's really cool. It's maybe one day I'll just have to like get myself a steel pipe. I got my Dremel inside. We can make some artifacts and such.
Oh, come on now! Don't say that. You get me in a lot of more trouble.
Well, listen, I'll put all sorts of fun stuff in the inside of mine because, all right, I might as well tell the story now because like I don't have this escalated very quickly. Okay, so for those of you who were watching Wednesday's show and in the chat, I decided to just run this fluke experiment that worked. Okay, and the fluke experiment was super simple. It was really just like a bottle cap, like an aluminum bottle cap that I drilled a couple holes in, and then that face buzzer Tesla coil, okay, that I put a wire down, and then I took the wire and I put it inside the cap, the aluminum cap, and I fixed it in there.
Okay, hold on. I'm gonna pull this up.
Hold on. Well, that's not it yet. Hold on.
Oh, okay, go ahead.
So I fired that up on top of the cathode rock, okay, and the thing started levitating superficially, but it was levitating. Kind of one side up and then the other side kind of bobbing, whatever. And thing is, it was throwing off a lot of ozone and shit. So I was like, okay, I'll just kill it, whatever. And it was like kind of purple glowy in the bottom, with the lights on. So that was kind of neat. I was like, yeah, this is cool. And I was very excited. So I was telling everybody in the chat. Then all of a sudden my mind went in this direction. And I was like, yeah, okay. It's not doing it enough to like show it good. I was like, I need to do this better. So I was like, all right, I need to get a small magnetic field in here, and I need to amplify it.
Okay.
So what I ended up doing was I basically took a nail that was wrapped up in some like silver plated copper wire, did that end to end, and put it through the center in the hole so it was fixed. And then I took a piece of quartz that I had flattened out, and I wrapped it in a silver horseshoe shape that I cut out the middle of a ring. And then I faced the horseshoe shape the way that it was coming. I had a train of thought here, and then I wedged the piece of quartz in between that coiled nail on the top of the cap, and I then hooked that up to the Tesla coil thing, and I let it go, and well, it wasn't levitating. Instead, what it was doing was sucking itself to my table intermittently, but nonetheless, like it felt like it had something on top of it trying to move it around. And then every so often it would flop around and then fall back down and then be like back to the table. And I thought that was pretty fascinating. I was like, well, I've created more gravity. Well, let's just reverse this son of a bitch, and well, I let that run for a little bit and then I decided to turn the juice on the little phase buzzer up. And I was like, oh, shit's getting weird. And then I let it happen for like a little bit until I was like, do not let this happen, turn it off. And the whole entire thing that I was looking at and the whole entire everything I was looking at was like pulsing like every so often and like shaking. But I didn't feel any shaking, right? So I'm just seeing pulsing and shaking of the entire area and the cap and the whole 9 yards. And it felt like it went on forever, and I recorded it. And when I did the playback, it like went out of focus and you could see it happen, but it was like a split second. But it was going on like for like 10 seconds at a clip. And that's when I realized I was like, oh no, I think I know what this is doing and I'm not going to play with it. It was scary. I literally took it apart and was like, I'm not messing with this. And
Okay.
it was scary, man. It was scary.
So what was it doing? What was your assessment of it?
I mean, for lack of a better way to put it, man, I'm pretty sure it was like phase shifting, the area. Like, like it was going out of sync with everything else, man. It just was. Like, I wasn't tired. I'm not schizophrenic, the last I knew. Like, saw the video shaking around too, and it was just very, 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 very strange. And it scared me after I kind of went through it. And I said, you know what? I don't know. And honestly, I don't like the frequency that thing is at. To be real, like it is an unharmonious frequency. Like it just kind of feels that way, at least. I don't know. So, yep.
That's kind of weird. I like it though. It was kind of hard to understand. We saw the picture of it, right? But then there wasn't like the last time we were on a Wednesday. There was not like a lot of context to what was going on, but we saw the picture of it.
I was just in the chat. Yeah, I know. So I mean, whatever it was doing, I mean, it was creating a magnetic field. It was exciting the piece of quartz. The quartz was giving off its own frequency. There was some kind of situation between the frequency of the coil output and the arcing and and it creates corona and stuff, and then it's excitation of the quartz. And like, I think those two frequencies, they didn't play nicely together and they were just like battling it out. I don't really know, to be honest. Like I've tried to actually avoid thinking about it because, like I said, man, it freaked me out. I didn't like it.
Wow. That's kind of odd because you say everything about everything.
Didn't like it, man. Like, I like it when I'm in control of it. I didn't feel like I was in control of that.
Hey guys, real quick, shout out again for the Traveling Fools channel. I put up their channel link in the description, or excuse me, in the chat for you guys. To link over to it, man, and sub to it. Awesome show. Yeah. Well, we're gonna have to find something else because I think you were telling us that the crystals were coming off of that rock. Did you ever get that on video? Where they? Because I saw.
You know what, that I know happens. I didn't get it on video, but like I could do that anytime. Like, I mean, if you just rub the crystal on the rock, I could get that whole entire crystal just like turn around 90 degrees. You know,
Oh
and
yeah.
I did it with Darren and Wahoo in in Discord, right? It's like just off of a piece of wood, you can get enough static build up, and polarity in the immediate locality of the situation between the crystal, a piece of wood, and the cathode rock that you could actually manipulate. It'll manipulate the weight distribution of the piece of plywood entirely, create lift on one side and usually drag on the other. Um,
Hmm.
so that's sort of and that's why I built that thing the way that I did, is because I
Okay.
knew that worked, and all I was trying to do was exploit and amplify the effects, right? Like same exact thing, right? I'm looking to
Fair.
dump the large amounts of high discharge, create static by putting it, with the dielectric, and then having that static kind of fall over and then also arc onto the surface. So there's both a static and a charge relationship, and then having them kind of separate from one another and then create like a pillow. You know, sound familiar, right? So that was sort of the idea in doing that. But when I did it with the quartz and the coil amplification situation, all I did was like disrupt time. So
Yeah.
yep.
Crazy.
And by the way, that thing has like no power at all, like objectively.
What
Compared to
would you
like the
put?
Tesla coil.
Yeah. What'd you put into it? Just a couple volts or something, or?
I don't know. It's whatever that thing puts out, whatever shit you put on your face.
Oh, the zapper thing. Okay.
Yo, that's what I did. Everything I sent you was with I made the thing float with the zapper thing. If I used the Tesla coil, man, I'm telling, like that would have fucking ripped it in, like it would have probably have worked really, really good, but I didn't do it that way because ever since I blew my PNP again 5 minutes after fixing it, I realized the power supply was probably fried. I've been giving it a little cool off time, so maybe some of that bad energy that I inadvertently injected into it goes away, you know, before I blow up another circuit. So I gave it a rest.
Wow. Well, it's a good thing you knew how to fix it. That's for sure. Dude, it's hard to blow up that circuit. I'm telling you, you must push that thing to the limit.
No, you know what? I mean, I do push it, but at the same time, the stuff that I was doing with it was super unconventional, super unconventional. And I was using piezoelectrics for like a long time and nuking them. And like I'm just the amount of energy that occurs when you break the lattice of a piezoelectric, for Christ's sakes. It's like it's got to go somewhere. Where's it go? Well, we know from the RAV, electron feed. You create the electron that feeds the anode, right? When you're running the anode off of your hot wire, where's it go? It goes back EMF, and you know does that sort of thing. So you let that get back into your circuit. Well, then all of a sudden it goes boom, because my voltage in might be 30 volts or whatever, but like I'm very, very sure that that's not what's getting in the back pressure. So,
No. No, no, no. Yeah, you got a lot of back pressure going on there.
oh yeah, like I should probably put like some kind of like, something.
Well, they usually make a snubber circuit so that it'll cross back over and go back into the system. Or you can run a capacitor on it and see if you can't pull the energy out of it. But if you have no way of checking how much is in there, that might be a dangerous thing altogether. You know what I mean?
Well, which leads me to my next adventure, which I've been like, oh boy, I know this is dangerous because I'm using capacitors not as a capacitor. There's no
Oh,
switching involved. So what I did was I told you I made these capacitors, right? I
mm-hmm.
made one an asymmetrical capacitor with it has a piece of graphite um, rod that's a thinner diameter than a piece of steel rod. Okay, and I was using that as an anode connection to that same base blaster thing.
I'll tell you
Yeah,
what, man. Hold on. I'm going to pull this thing up. It looks more like TNT or something.
it does. Uh-huh. So that's a steel anode coming out of that thing that I'm just using directly out of a capacitor. So it's literally charging up that capacitor and then just chucking it all out. And it's actually it worked in amplifying it like quite a bit, and it changed the frequency significantly. And the fact that the current gets through all of this different bullshit that I put it through is fucking remarkable. Because like basically it's just like literally a pigtail loose ass wire that I jammed up the ass of this like facial device thing and then like held it in with a piece of tape. You know what I mean? And then like literally just took a loose ass like another pigtail like at the outer layer of that foil and plastic wrap, wrapped it all up, with the anode in the center, and it's all just held together with a goddamn piece of shrink tubing, for Christ's sakes. And you know, and like there's probably a direct connection between the carbon core and the steel core, but I'm just letting it discharge straight out of the fucking right out of there, man. Just like let it ride. No switch.
Yeah.
No switch, let it ride.
Let it ride, man.
And let me tell you, it's doing it. It's doing it. It changed the color of the fucking arc, I'll tell you that much.
Oh, wow. Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
you made it a big capacitor is what you did. Yeah.
Yeah,
That's
right.
what
But
changed.
and then I took the bottle cap because I'm a glutton for punishment, and then I built another capacitor with a piece of fucking quartz stuck with a piece of carbon graphite stuck through it, and then and then I put it on the inside of the cap and started fucking blasting the cap. I think my eardrums were going to explode with the amount of like what it's doing to the frequency is ridiculous.
Oh, yeah.
It's
I
like
told you.
it's like
Yeah. Well, you basically gave it what are those things? Those things that the cops electrocute you with? The
a taser, yeah.
tasers? Yeah,
Yeah,
that's what
yeah.
you made.
It's probably like a
Yeah,
million volts, yeah.
no, that's what
So
you made.
all right, it's probably like a million volts. So, but the whole point is that I just want to be able to get like the high voltage enough to be able to get like a mass corona all over the thing that I get my density levels up over time, and then I'll be able to get the desired effect. But honestly, I don't really know um that like I even like this line of experimentation because I'm modifying the voltage so much at this point that the energy levels aren't high enough, and then I'm falling into the court of what I said before, which is, oh, it'll probably go. It's just gonna take forever. And honestly, like the amount of bullshit that this thing like just puts out into the environment is like it's not worth it. Like it's not.
No.
And that none of that's even like lost energy is the crazy thing because like it's just all going into the environment. I'm pretty sure that you can probably see my bones through my shirt at a couple of points. I'm fairly certain. I don't know.
Oh man.
Yeah, do some
That's
crazy shit. Make me play with high voltage. I'm sitting there with
yeah.
no shoes on, like with one hand, like just put your other hand in your pocket and you'll be fine.
You're not gonna be fine though. You're still not fine with that.
Fucking spill water on the table. I'm like, I'll get it in a sec. I'll get it in a sec. I'm like the worst.
No big deal.
Well, I really tried to up it because once I realized that the mini Tesla coil like wasn't really able to form the RAV, and I was pissed about it. I started I started throwing electrolytes and shit into the fucking cathode
Oh
water.
no.
And I'm like, hey, listen, if this draw ain't enough, this one should be.
Oh well, yeah. Why not?
Inverse relationship. You know what I mean? No, if the push ain't hard enough, I'll just pull it harder. How's that?
There you go.
uh,
That's so bad.
I haven't gotten hurt, knockwood.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
Back, that's
Doing
me.
that stuff, you will. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh man, that's so bad. I love it. I did that a couple times, Joe. I was sitting there with the water because making the rav, you have to put the water dip and stuff on it. I'd knock the bottle of water over onto the ground and think, no, nothing about it. You know what I mean?
I never had
Yeah, I
a
am.
good
Yeah, don't get me wrong, man. I'm not the smartest person in the world either. Sometimes I just forget. You know what I mean? And I go, oh well, I better clean this up. But then I don't think, well, it needs dry time, so I'm going to do the experiment anyway. I get in some of that, and then the smart part of me puts the lid back on it so I don't do it again.
If you want, not that it's much to see, but you could, if you'd like, show the bottle cap and then the superimposed picture of what I observed, because like there was no way to photograph that, and then the video. The video, like you're gonna be like, what am I watching a video of? By the way, and it's not ionic wind, okay? It's not. Although people will say it is, but the field has such movement, okay, when I'm doing this because of the quartz that nothing will go near it. Okay. So like if I blow vape on it or if I lit up a piece of incense, it'll literally just like push it out to the point of like where the field ends. And it'll start lingering around there. And that was the point of me recording it. And it was a longer video, but I just like took a snippet of it, you know?
Okay, I'm looking for it, Joe. Give me a second. Was it on? I think it was on the
It
other
was
one,
Wednesday. It was Wednesday I sent it to you.
but not on your regular channel. I did the raft thing, right? So I got pictures of what it looked like. I could show that, but the video and stuff, I don't.
So there is something interesting that I observed too that I didn't talk about yet while you're looking for that.
Okay.
But when I tried to, I want to say build the wrap, but I knew the wrap wasn't going to build with it the way that I had it configured. But when I was just like arcing over to that cathode rock with a particular setup that I had going on,
Yeah.
the arc was changing colors, right? And the way that it was going was interesting because it was mostly purple, but then it had, yeah, this is the video I'm talking about, right? So it actually had these orange bits, right? And if you slow it down and look, those orange, it's coming from down to up. So it's possible that that's like actually the electrons feeding out.
Okay, let's see if we can't follow one. There's one at the top. Oh, there's one in the middle. You can barely see it, but it's there.
Yep. You get that right. So that orange actually like rides up.
Come on.
It's really hard to catch. It happens super fast. When you watch it full speed, you could actually see it more prevalently, but like it's really hard to catch.
Look at that. You're getting two out of there.
Yeah.
Okay, let's just play it. Yeah, I'm seeing them. You see it brighten up real quick.
And
Yeah.
they're going from down to up, which is strange and cool.
That could be that back pressure you're looking at.
There's no quartz involved in this.
Well, yeah, you don't necessarily need the quartz if it has enough energy in it and it's just bouncing it back.
Yep.
Huh. Interesting.
Yep.
Yeah, I'll have to zoom that in and show it on the members thing so that everybody gets to see it. You can kind of see it here, but it's easier when you see it bigger.
Mm-hmm.
And this is that zappy thing.
Yep. Without any of the modification, so to speak.
Okay, so I'm gonna keep looking for that other thing. Give me a second.
Yeah, the other thing, like I said, I don't know. Like, a part of me wants to do it again, and a part of me is like, don't do it again.
I think I found the picture.
Yeah. You can see how dumb this thing is. Like, legit. It's made of garbage. Okay. So that's what it looked like. That's not an actual photo. I want to be very clear about that. There's no trickery here.
Okay.
A charlatan not, my friends. Okay. This is when I looked at it, that's what it looked like. The cat was flipped the other way, but that's what it looked like.
That's what you were seeing. Okay.
But the whole entire area, like in front of me.
But this is what it looked like normally.
That's what the inside of it looks like. So, usually when I run it the other way. I tried it both ways, but I run it the cap side down. So basically what you're looking at is an aluminum cap, okay, that has that nail through the middle of it on both sides. So it enters on sort of one side and goes through the entire other side. And then the feed, okay, from that base zapper, okay, is hooked up to the head of the nail, wrapped with some coil windings around it. And that tube is wrapped around the entire cap with the insulated wire to the coil. Then wedged underneath that nail thing is a piece of quartz, okay, with a strategically cut piece of silver around it. Okay, it's 925 silver. That's like in a horseshoe shape. And if you see, the horseshoe shape is facing away from the connection. Okay, so the idea here was bring the energy around the outside. Okay, just one turn, it's all you get, but you're still manipulating the energy vectoring at that point because you're charging up this entire cap. So basically, it's going to be hooking itself. When it gets through the cap, the RF will go straight through the insulation.
Okay.
Yeah, that was first and foremost. Secondly, you're running it to the pin. Okay, so that's actually acting as an anode. Okay, and also as a magnetic, an internal, magnetic vector. So it would be forming like a counter magnetic field on the inside because it's wrapped opposite of that rotation. That is in direct contact with the quartz and that silver ring. So basically, I wanted to be able to have it go and induct it into the quartz, get whatever piezo pressure that's off of it, and have it wrap back around the ring, and then have an inverse relationship, okay, with the anode itself, increasing the energy density levels. Then that should lead to large ionization on the inside of the cap, right? And then again, you have the energy feedback loop as far as the RF is concerned. So, you'd have an RF field being kind of pulled into the outside of the cap, okay, but then also pulled into the inside too. And that's actually why it was pulling to the table and not pushing, is because it needed one push, one pull, and it didn't have that. It had two pulls.
Got it.
But whenever I guess whatever was going on, it was just pull, 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 pull. That screws with the, time dilation, I suppose, at that high rate of oscillation. And then I have the two different frequencies between the quartz and its piezo output and the frequency that was probably totally incoherent. And what that led to was shaking. But
Okay.
but not like shaking actually, just shaking virtually. And that's what was crazy about it. It was like taking the ether and just going like this. Like if you were inside of a fish tank and you shook the fucking fish tank, you know what I mean? Like everything's like, what the hell? But you don't feel it. It's just like everything in your environment's going with it. It was crazy.
Hmm.
Yeah. So that was a disaster.
Wow.
Or very cool. I mean, both. Kind of both.
I would love for it to happen to me. You know what I mean? When I had a camera around, that'd be awesome.
Yeah, well, I mean, like I said, the video, and that's what like made it strange because you know what? I know that different when you're screwing with the overall frequency in the entire area. I know that you can have visual effects, and I've seen it before, and it's normal. And you're dealing with oscillation at the end of the day. That's what this is, you know.
Okay.
So I'm not shocked about that. I think that where I got super concerned was when I saw that it was observed, like that there was the at the same times that I pretty much observed what I observed, that the camera was kind of clicking out too. And then once I realized that the durations were different, like my perceived duration and the actual duration, I was like, oh, that's weird. And I don't know. So that's when I took it all apart and I said, you know what? Fuck that for now. It's fine.
Nice. All right. Strange things, man. Strange things.
I experienced it.
Hey, I got something for everybody, and we'll take a look. Everybody's into that. What do they call it? The boogosphere? How do you say that, Joe?
Your guess is as good as mine, man. I didn't find it. I've never been to Peru.
So
The boogaloo? Yo, we'll just call it the boogaloo because like that's the direction we're headed anyway.
that's so bad.
Break out the pitchforks and torches, you know.
Okay. Anyway, let me pull this up real quick. And shit, I got the wrong pictures to look at over here. Oh my Jesus. Okay. So we'll just pull this one. Okay. So a lot of people are familiar with this. We're looking at this one right here, the boogosphere. I know I'm saying it wrong. BUGA, booger. Okay, booga. I know there's two up there, guys. Just don't mind that.
Well, I mean, aren't these things quite similar to that rod thing that you were talking about last week? It's sort of like they were, you know, made for each other.
Yeah. Oh man, we're so not going there. Oh, get me in trouble. We'll probably go there anyway. All right, give me a second. There was a point I wanted to make before we got there anyway. Okay. So we all saw that thing floating through the air, and I just want people to understand this a little bit. I'm going to bring up a video and show you guys something. Let's see. I'm going to have to mute it too. Sorry, everybody puts music on their stuff, gets me in trouble. So what you're seeing right there is a little sphere, right? Little tiny one on your screen in the center.
Oh my god!
Yeah, there we go.
Put my spectacles on.
So Bernie says he's got a guest that studies them. I just want you to check this out because sometimes people don't understand how anti-gravity is a little easier than you think it is. You just have to have the right stuff. Give it a second. Oh my God, do I have this thing on pause or what? There we go. It's starting to move up. Anyway, I just wanted to show you this. I maybe got the wrong video. The other one's probably better. This one's taking forever to get up. It's like a granny channel. But there you go. It got all the way up there.
Well, it took its time. It's like we were talking about earlier. Sometimes these things don't just happen. Like, it takes a little bit.
Yeah, give me a second. I'm gonna pull the other one because that I didn't realize it was taking that much time. I just wanted to show everybody it could be kind of like the same shape. It doesn't surprise me that these things are up in the air. Oh, this one takes a little shorter time. That one rose quick. There we go. Wish you wouldn't have put all that garbage all over the screen. Yeah, watch this thing. It'll just straight up off the ground. But this is basically a sphere doing the same thing. It's just for people who are wondering there's no fan available or ion wind that could do this. There's no way. Well, and I know the guy, so it's an asymmetrical capacitor that's doing it basically with a very high pulse rate that's expanding the center zone.
It's worth noting too, and this ties what you're showing right now right back into our over unity discussion. I guess you should really recalculate a little bit your thought of how much work it takes versus the right stuff that it takes. Because I was saying to Nathan earlier, I mean, if you were to take a properly tuned horn, for instance, right? And you were to take 3 deep breaths, right? Mm-hmm. And blow into this horn, and that horn was properly tuned to move a particular rock, right? This rock might be much larger and heavier than one that you can move, right? It might be much larger and heavier than you could ever move with 3 breaths of air for certain. But yet with 3 breaths of air and the right stuff, pitching it properly, you can move the stone. Mm-hmm. And I'm not saying with 3 breaths of air, you're going to make it float up in the sky. Okay. That might take 6 breaths. You get it. But the idea here is that you could actually reduce the work it takes by inducing the right stuff into the environment around it. So what does that mean for watts? What does that mean for the amount of work something takes? It just means that the efficiency equations that we were shitting on before, because, I mean, the way it's presented is garbage, okay? It's a lie, all right? But the efficiency equations are, like, great in the sense that you don't need a lot of the right stuff to move a whole lot. But that doesn't mean that the output, okay, is greater than anything going in. But that said, you could actually have both. What happens if you have an output greater than what's coming in, and it's also working at a high level of efficiency? Maybe you make something float off the ground like no problem, and you could control it, wouldn't you say? Isn't that sort of the idea here? Right? Like, and I'm just going to continue to shit on those goddamn charlatan people out there, because until you show me cavitation inside of your joule feed circuit, or whatever, like, you're just fucking misrepresenting what you're doing, and that's it.
Yeah. Well, the anti-gravity works a little bit different.
It works big time different.
Oh, so let me just explain this. A lot of people say, okay, here's what they go. They go, we got AC, we got DC, we got static electricity. Okay, we have high volts, we have high amps. Okay, they say we got 3-phase motor, AC, all of it put on a scale. What does it do? It gives you weight loss. Okay, all of it. The problem is it's not very much. You don't even get a gram worth of weight loss. Okay. So let's just understand this. The whole thing about we can put something on a scale and have weight loss is totally bullshit. It's a lie. Okay. That's not how anti-gravity works. Anti-gravity works based on creating gravity in your own craft. It's a gravity well. You must create gravity on your own. What does that basically mean? It basically means that the outside field must keep gravity out of the inside of it. That's all it has to do. It doesn't mean it has to have 1,000,000 amps. It doesn't mean it has to have 1,000,000 volts. What it means is it must produce a field that takes into consideration the energy type that is the environment that you're actually in. Okay. And what it's doing is it's holding back that energy itself. That's all it's got to do. And you go, well, what energy field are we in? Well, walk outside. Is it magnetism? No, sure isn't. You can walk out there, throw magnets all day long and just drop all the time. Is it static electricity? No, static electricity shows up once you do something. It does not show up right away. What are you actually in? You're in a radiation field. Okay. And we call it radiant because it's non-harmful where we are, but as soon as we put pressure on that field, it becomes radiation and we get a bunch of skin problems. Okay. Now that you know that, what do you have to create on the outside of your anti-gravity craft? You must create a radiation field. This is a fundamental part. You go over, you go, okay, what happens when a UFO lands? Everything around it dies. It goes brown. Okay. All the vegetation. What do you get in the soil samples? You get radiation in the soil samples. What happens when you go over a car? Well, all the whole car shuts off, but then it's able to turn back on. So we know it's not an EMP where it kills the electronics, but it was overloading your circuits based on radiation. Here's the thing. If you fundamentally understand that, then it's not so hard to figure out where does the radiation come from in your testicle? Right down the center. So why do they use that as the outside field? Because it blocks out everything. Then it's a very infinitesimally small amount of energy that you need because you're not filling up the environment of the earth. You're filling up the environment of the bubble.
That's right. That's right. And what it does is it changes the relationship of the differential. So rather than have to have the wildly highest of high energy states, to break that locality in the differential, you're actually creating a reverse gradient diffuse of the energy. So it's like Nathan's saying, if the outside environment is radiation, you need that radiation field too. That actually is the intermedium between that and this. The difference is that radiation field, okay, is separate of that because it's actually attached to and coupled with, I should say, coupled with the other fields that are within it. And because of that coupling, you're able to reverse the fields. And we are inside of a magnetic field. I kind of want to put that out there, but that's why you get the radiation. Because the radiation's able to, it permeates.
Well, hold on. Let's just qualify that. So you say we're in a magnetic field, right? But the field's built out in layers.
Oh yeah.
Okay. So there's a layer that's really magnetic, and then there's a layer that's you can't feel the magnetism at all. Okay. And I'll say it this way. So if we wanted to put in a little bar graph, right? And I said, okay, you have static electricity, you have magnetism here, you have radiation right here, and we have temperature difference. You're going to have to put up each one of those to equal a certain result, right? Just go like this. So what you're doing is you're saying the magnetic state is really low while the radiant state's really high, but then when you get in the upper atmosphere, the static state's high, the magnetism low, and the radiant state's low. You know what I mean? But the temperature changes as well.
There's an interesting factor here because, we have a magnetic field around the planet, and we are inside of that magnetic field, which is different, basically subject to eddy currents and so on, and like that sort of thing. Like that's like the part of the field that we're in. The idea of that magnetic field actually being like objectively magnetic, though, it's such a weak field comparatively. to what we would consider magnetism, that it doesn't act like a magnet in that sense. It's really just the energy vectoring that's occurring. And it has a magnetic component, but it's not an actual magnet itself. It's not like an electromagnet that you lift up a piece of shit, 92 Toyota Corolla and, throw it into a heap of garbage, with. It's not one of those. So, like, it's, it's far more diffuse than that, even at its most upper levels, where the traditional magnetism would be most present. And by the time that occurs, because of the rates of diffusion that occur with gravity and all these other circumstances that were, like, you wouldn't ever see a traditional attraction repulsion, even with a magnet, let alone something heroic. So it's sort of the idea, like it's like magnetism often, and I think this is where people get fucked up. And I know in the past, like you have too, about it a little bit. Like magnetism itself is not like a magnet necessarily. It has to do with the flow, the energy flow. And I mean that's my opinion of it at least. And it's worked for me so far.
Well,
As far as my understanding of it is concerned.
I'll
So,
just say it this way: it's all on a big flow chart.
yeah.
And
Oh, and I'm sorry, 1 second. And Yanni, yes, different than gravity, I think. I don't know. Yeah, I'm not talking about gravitation at all in this moment with the magnetism.
oh yeah, no, I knew that.
Yeah. I just want to be clear. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I think in general you could say there's a magnetic state in everything. It all depends on which side's amplified. That's all I'm saying here. I'm saying they're all present in the same system. It's just which one's amplified. That's why I say when you're in different areas, it's a different thing. So
Yeah.
you could be in an area there's more radiant energy than there is magnetic or static.
Oh, definitely.
Then,
We're in a radiant. Absolutely. I agree with you 1,000%.
no, that's all I was saying. So it just
Mhm.
plays with those simple factors when you get to the Earth. So there's a temperature difference. The higher you go up and the lower you are. You know what I mean? If we get to the center, it's really hot, really magnetic. Not a problem, right? Anyway, that's all I was trying to say. But it's because you understand that and can play with those factors that you can get a gravity well to work. If you don't understand that, you'll never get it to work. Because you won't know what to put in it. And you won't know why. You know what I mean? And you won't know what you're looking for. Most people go, "Oh my God, let's put a ton of energy in this." And trust me, I mean, just tell you right now, I'm the first one to do it, and I did do it. And I realized later it was the wrong thing to do because it's not a weight loss thing, okay? At all. That scale is a piece of junk. You won't ever need it. The only way that you get anything anti-gravity is to create your own gravity well and then vector direction out of it. You have to create the energy to push in one direction, not be in one direction. It has to push it in one direction. Okay.
Now,
That's
that's
why
a good point you bring up, because remember something. What I told you I created, where the thing was like heavy on the table, when it's only a fucking aluminum cap and that's it,
Mhm.
when it's heavy on the table, that's half the gravity well. Okay. So all you got to do is really repulse that. It's not really the inverse. You kind of have to have both. You have to have your own gravitational situation, you know. And this is what it is. It's like, I don't know.
Yeah.
But just remember something. You might weigh less in space, but you're still fat. You know what I
But
mean? That's that.
here's the thing. The more it weighs, the better it works. It
Mhm.
has to do with mass. Inertial mass reduction is bullshit. It needs to weigh more. Okay. It's because you need the mass in a negative energy system in order for it to pull the energy in. That's what you're not understanding. When I did all the light bulbs and stuff to the center of the coil, I needed grounding. I needed the mass to pull the energy through.
Mhm.
That's the same thing in this. It's not mass reduction. That's garbage. You are literally needing the mass to create its own gravity.
Yeah, but we're
That's
saying
why
it
it has
wrong.
to weigh
We're
so
saying
much.
it wrong. We need high energy potential density.
No, you don't. No. I'm not saying it wrong.
Comparatively.
You need, like, You need it to be metal and you need it to be big. Let's just say it that way, okay? That's it. And if you do not compress the center of it at any time, you don't have anything. I mean, you could fart right through it. It wouldn't matter. You don't have anything without it.
And if you don't have a glowing ball, you ain't got shit either. So, like, I'm just done with them.
There's no glowing ball that's going to happen in that, Joe. I can tell you that right now.
Playing around.
It's never going to happen in the center of a coil.
Bouncing back to what we were saying. I'm bouncing around to what we were saying. By the way, glowing ball can still make it happen.
Yeah,
we'll get there. We're close. I think we're getting close.
Yeah. Every time I say we're getting close, I think we get further away.
Yeah, that's not true. You know what you're doing? You're doing the good thing, which is you're being skeptical. I love that. That's fine.
Well, we got to, because sometimes the result says something different than what we're used to, and I follow the result, and it sucks because I don't want it to mean that. You know what I mean? Yeah. I just don't. But that's what it's telling me, and until we change something different.
Yeah, but I got to be real. You haven't come up with one concern that I haven't logically explained away based on, like, not just opinion, but like science. So,
well, no, I think I have.
I don't know. I disagree, but
so just so you guys know, we disagree about the water component in the RAV, and it's ongoing because we're not done by any means experimenting. The problem for me is when I remove that whole component, I take the bottom tray and I throw it away. I take the water in the bottom tray and there's no tray, so there's no water. Okay, and I just dab the sides of it, and I can create it with just clay, or I could create two at once with the anode and cathode being equal. It kind of gets rid of that whole factor, and you're like, okay. But then Joe makes a good point always, well, you're not multiplying it in any way. And then I come back and say, well, I got two RAVs started, and one decompresses while the other one, gets bigger. But still, we're not past a certain energy state. So he could be 100% right at the next level. But at this level, I don't see it. See, that's the problem with what we're doing. Who the hell knows where we're going to be next week?
No, nobody has done what we're doing before. I've looked long and hard at this point. Not a thing. It's not a thing, So here's what we know so far. Let's talk RAV for a second. We'll say what we know so far, right? Well, you need an anode, cathode, and water, okay, in the configuration that we've set all along in order to create the channel. Okay, we've said that. Then we know that at least for a certain duration of time, okay, you could start the RAV up almost instantly on a channel, okay, with or without a cathode, okay. Now, where Nathan is bringing it is you have to start it up on this channel, okay, but you can actually take it off the channel and then even take it off the material onto a surface that doesn't have a channel or a cathode at all, and the RAV seems to sustain. So, at first it perplexed me a little bit because I was like, well, that's rough, But then what I realized is this, okay? We know that it'll start on the cathode because it has a negative potential bias, okay? We know this. So it has like a charge state that has a memory, and that charge state has a source of electrons. All right. It's not an indefinite source by any means, although in some places it could be, but just not at the types of levels that it makes all that much of a difference, I guess. Whatever. You could start the RAV up on the channel. But once the RAV starts up, right, you take it off the channel, it's already a compressed plasma ball in motion. So it's already got all the components in which make it a RAV, which is the rotation, the compression, the magnetic component. And once that's established, it seems to maintain. And what it seems to be is that when you move it off of the cathode surface or run it without a cathode at all, okay, that it's able to anotically create enough ionization to potentially create some free electrons to allow for the relationship to continue to exist for at least some time. And that's sort of been the way that I put it. And the way that I put it too is that, there, you can make the similar thing, okay, but it doesn't necessarily make it the same. So what is different about depending on how you build the RAV is depending on what it's built made up of inside. It's not stuff that you're necessarily going to observe. But if you want the layering and you want the feed constantly, you want the stability where it's not leaching out a lot of light and things like that, you need to maintain this constant feed, because then what ends up happening is if you starve the anode of electrons, in order for it to continue as a RAV or an arc at all, it needs to start dematerializing stuff around it, both atmosphere and whatever surface it's on, in order to have a steady electron supply, or else it just simply doesn't exist. We've all seen arcs like that are arcing and then it'll fizzle and fade. And why? Well, that's because it doesn't have an electron stream. Like that's why it doesn't have anything to connect to. It becomes the live wire hanging out of the wall, right? What's it doing? Nothing. So that's the idea here. So the RAV has such potential and is already kind of made in its ways, that its environmental impact may be enough to strip enough electrons to keep that going. But again, indefinitely, no. To grow it, no. Made of the same stuff, no. That's where I'm going with it. That's what I'm thinking.
I disagree, and this is why. It comes down and then it rotates back into itself. So as a sphere, it's already turning. Okay, it's already built, right?
Yep.
I think the anode, just like a merry-go-round, it just comes and hits it and turns it, hits it and turns it like this, right? So it's already spinning. All it's doing is keeping the motion going, okay, as it comes down, and that's it. And then the energy returns up the anode. What happens is we get back pressure, and it'll heat up your MOSFETs and fry them if you're not careful. Okay, so that's what I'm seeing going on. We're getting back pressure in it because it's doing that, but it also changes the relationship. It means that you don't need the cathode feeding it to get that push once it's already built. It needs to do it to get the swirl to turn in on itself. But once it turns in on itself, it's basically set, and then you're just giving it a tiny bit of energy each time. I don't see it any other way.
But you do, and I'll tell you why you do. Because the axial spin doesn't corroborate what you're saying. And the axial spin, okay, drifts it out, biased to one direction, and then you see the rotation when it starts cutting into new clay. And you know that the spin is axial from the anode down and not the other way based on the photo part measurements, but also the observable effect of the drift and the markings on the clay. So what you're saying, it turning in on itself, okay, would be a transaxial motion or creating a new axial motion. And it would be drifting the other way like a tire spins. And that's just not what's observed. So we know that it has an equatorial spin parallel to the, anode cathode relationship. And, because of those observations that we've seen in all the videos, like mine, yours, and Sean's.
That's the thing, but it can't be a flow between the anode and cathode after it's created. Just not there, because it has to do with the experiments that are done. When I remove the whole cathode situation after I have that cavern built, the thing is turned on. And I don't even have to have the clay anywhere. I can hang it from the ceiling and it'll start turning on.
So the point that I make
It's
is that
already created its motion in the cavern, and it's already preset its condition. Is what I'm saying. It's already pre-done. All we're doing is because it heats up as you do that turning motion too. It changes the frequency and the amount of temperature that goes into it. So
well, I mean, more to be explored, but I'm, I'm under the agreement that it does sustain under the conditions that Nathan's saying, so it's not like I disagree with him. I just think that it's made of something different at that point. I think that that's evident based on the videos, and the observations seen in the between Sean's, yours, and mine. Um, and then I think that there's different uses depending on how you create it. And I think that that's the important factor because Nathan was, we always share stuff that we find interesting back and forth, irrelevant. And, like you shared this earth eater kind of, it's like a kind of a new way to dig a hole, right?
oh
And
yeah.
right. Basically, it's unformed wrap. Okay. Well, that wrap will never form because it has nowhere to form a channel to. So what does it do? Exactly what I said. It dematerializes looking, begging, scrounging for crumbs of electrons by dematerializing everything in its path. And that's what it does.
But
And therefore RAV doesn't form because it has no cathodic relationship, not even a memory one to go off of. Now, if you put that same thing onto a channel, like we call it, right? Or onto a where there could be a cathode penetration, where there's a mutual attraction, right? Well, then it would probably form a RAV. You see, but then it also wouldn't be eating the Earth. The point of it's to eat the Earth. Why does it eat the Earth? Because it eats the electrons. So that's it. Like different purposes for different things, and just because this isn't chewing through the clay abundantly and entirely, if you look at Nathan's plays, surfaces versus Sean's versus mine, different power levels, different ways of doing it. Okay. Um, you'll notice that his is way more chewed out than when you're going around. Like, um, something I've noticed immediately. And why? Because it's oxygen. It's hydrogen star. It's cathode star. So it's chewing. Mine doesn't have that, and Sean's, he has that much less.
I disagree with that completely.
I don't know. I've spent a lot of time looking at this stuff.
Yeah, but after how many tests? I mean, it's not like you had one test on there and checked it. There's a ton of tests. It's kind of
I ran mine for a week, and mine actually had, believe it or not, this is funny. Mine was built up more and was not chewed out at all. So mine was actually above the surface and not below the surface, and I never ran mine without water. I mean, I did to test it, but not for any, period of time.
Yeah, I think there's a misunderstanding there, and I'll have to reset the experiment to show you. I run that dunker for 20 minutes if I wanted to. It wouldn't matter. It wouldn't chew up any more of the clay. It would sit in one spot and spin. It's the frequency that does it because you're out of line with the resonance of it. It's because the light emission says that the frequency is wrong. That's what's going on.
Hey, listen, I mean, it's cool. I just don't see how, and maybe this is either humbling or crippling, be it as it may, but without like a good and abundant free electron supply, I just don't see transmutation happening to any great extent whatsoever, even in future testing. The best that you're going to get is you're going to get, physics-induced chemistry by
But the thing is,
breaking compounds apart and stuff.
the electron supply comes from the anode. It doesn't need to come from the cathode. It's got plenty.
Well,
It doesn't need it. You keep thinking it has to have this two state. It doesn't. It just doesn't. Not
Okay.
not not after you created that tunnel. It doesn't need it.
Oh, what happens when you try to weld and you forget to connect your
Yeah, but that's welding, and
your-
that's different. Welding is different. Don't even try
oh,
to go there. Welding is
but,
different.
but energy doesn't work different. That's the thing.
No, energy is based on the condition you put it in, and you're putting it in a total different position than you are in this RAV. Okay, let's not lie to each other here.
Well, no,
This
no,
welding is different.
but if I was just to throw an arc down onto a surface, it's either gonna hit or it's not. When it hits, it's just gonna go, and if it's an insulator, it just like kind of look around and kind of die at the surface and whatever. If it's like a semiconductor, it'll kind of go in. Like like to get it to actually ball up and form on the surfaces. Like ideally, there has to at least be once you get the containment is the thing. Well, and that's where we don't disagree. Is like it's all about the stability. So once the stability is gained, okay, cool. You have a lot of forgiveness all of a sudden, but
I I'm seeing something totally different, and this is where you're more in line with some kind of mainstream science, and I won't ever be. Is the cavern itself changes the frequency of the RAV? It just does, and it lowers the frequency. But when it does, it then sets the frequency in the chamber. In that cavernous structure, it creates that frequency in that chamber. And that's what keeps it going. It's that bouncing back and forth gives it extra energy to stay there. It doesn't need these little electrons like you think it does. It doesn't work that way.
well, no,
These
but
things
no,
are
no,
working
but
on the
it doesn't
resonance.
work that way. But plasma does. See, because
No, I'm
ionization
saying it.
isn't just straight like that's not straight compressed plasma. See, that's the thing. Like there's there's certain things that like I mean it just simply is what it is, and plasma is not a given. You don't just simply get plasma because you heated something up. Um, there's conditions that exist, and some of those conditions are, uh, the I mean, listen, the containment can be that good that it's self-sustaining. That's cool. I love that. Like that's the dream. But the thing is that I think there's too much visible leak to claim that it doesn't have a counter supply, and that's where I'm thrown off. I mean, you could say one wire energy, same sort of deal, kind of acting like a diode. I mean, you could say it sort of like that, right? I mean, okay, maybe.
Hold on. It gets its resonance based on the cavity. The cavity to the RAV itself is the resonance. Those are the two frequencies working together. You're not on that path. You're on the path of voltage.
Well, but
Eh,
but but you're removing it from that condition,
No, no, no,
so
no,
it's not
no, no, no. You
not
are on a
present.
voltage. You bring up welding. You're on a voltage path. What you mean, just like science seems to misunderstand this, that everything has to do with your amps and volts in a system, and it has to flow through it. And I'm telling you, it doesn't. And
Okay, but
it's working on a total different principle than what you
all
think
right,
it
all
is.
right, hold on. I'm gonna help us agree. I'm gonna pee first, though. Give me one second.
Wow. Yeah. Oh, what fun it is, huh? Stuff that goes on behind the scenes. You guys get to see it. It's all good, though. It's all healthy discussion. I just see it differently because I built it differently. You know what I mean? That's why other people don't see it the same. Yeah. So they were right. Gorbenikoff and the cavernous structure effect. Absolutely correct. By the way, it came up earlier, and it has to do with resonance and how it actually works. So, absolutely. Oh man. Oh, let's see. Fractal stacking. Yeah, that's what the cavern does. Well,
All
it
right,
just creates certain frequency.
okay. I
All right,
agree.
go ahead.
Cavernous materials effect. I agree with that. Um, Secondly, um, we don't really disagree. Like, we really don't. Like, I mean, I know it seems like we do, but I just keep on saying there's like different things going on, different functions, different ways to exploit it. I keep on saying that. And, just because visually it works, okay, doesn't mean that the same exact thing is going on. And that's what I've been trying to drive home this entire time. Um, you know, we know that the relationship exists between the anode and the cathode by virtue of the formation of the channel that we both agree is particular to its formation. That channel is not just simply an anodic channel, it's a relationship between two things that are crossing and must cross in order for it to form. And it's like I said just all along, and the theory is not let us down, is that you have the two potentials crossing, and that once they reach the other side is when it stabilizes and crosses, and then it forms. And that occurs when you have the channel, okay, because of the negative bias, and it allows for that. That's why you need it to form. But the thing is that there was a relationship going on between point A and point B all along. Okay, it wasn't defeated by creation of the channel. That relationship, okay, still is. No matter, like, talk to me till you blue in the face. If you tell me that it's more efficient for the actual thing itself, okay, to be drawn off of that connection that formed it, that's silly. Because there's a mutual draw that's occurring between it. Okay. And that mutual draw pulls stuff that fundamentally, not regular science, like there's certain things that are fundamental. Like, there's people out there that think that they make fucking hamburgers out of tofu. Guess what? It's not a hamburger. You get it? Like, it doesn't taste like a hamburger. It looks like shit. You probably blew up a Tesla or something. Like, I don't know. Like, or a Hummer. Like, you get what I'm saying. The whole idea here is that just like you could form it, that doesn't mean that it's filled with the same stuff, and doesn't mean that it's reaching the same potential or the same purpose as if the connection was maintained and optimized. And that's where we're failing to see the connection here, is because we're not at the stage of optimization at this stage where the moisture level is mitigated and controlled, and the ability of the ionized hydrogen to travel that through that passage, because it's attracted through that passage the same as the anode's attracted down. This is how that works. It's an exchange. So if you could get that to occur, you're going to have your layered, stable grav, okay, that has a continuous looping feed of what the plasma needs, which is the electrons. And we could say, well, that's not the case just because, you've removed it and it sustains, but visually there's nothing to see here because it was already formed. You can't see inside the thing, okay, and you don't know that it's made of the same stuff or doing the same things. It just goes to show logically, if you believe in the potential for transmutation, that having free electrons, okay, is going to be critical to that idea. And by sitting there and looking at it and saying, you know what, it's sustained in a ball, so it must be good and it must be the same, okay, is immensely dense. Okay, because if you optimize the amount of electron flow that it has, and you don't overwhelm the anode, because by the way, you could do that, okay, with the electrons. Now all of a sudden you have the transmutation element of it on lock and key. That's where the fusion comes in.
Okay, hold on.
So how do you think choking it out of electrons and making it try to feed on material is optimal? Like, I don't really understand.
The transmutation state is not when the RAV is formed. It's when it forms the RAV. See, there's a difference. When it tunnels, it's putting things into a gaseous state. The gaseous state is the transmutative state, not the plasma state. That's the difference. It forms in the cavern already, and it's already done, and the transmutation is formed in the cavern. It
Well,
not formed once the
that's
RAV
not
is
it.
done.
That's
No,
not it.
no, it is.
No,
It's in the
well,
gaseous state that it's formed. It's not in the plasma state.
okay, but what you're dealing with there is not transmutation at all. What you're dealing with in those initial states before it forms, when it's forming a channel, is not transmuted at all. It's chemistry. It's all it is it's doing electrolysis. It's ionic deposition. The ionic deposition is interacting, and what it's doing is it's depositing those ions from the anode to create the channel at the uppermost layers. But as it digs deeper into that, knowing that you need a cathode and water even to create it, because you won't create it without it, those ions are going to be interacting with the ions that are coming of the water.
Oh my god,
And
dude!
it becomes a chemical reaction.
Hey, stop! Just stop. Let me tell you how I created the double wrap. I'm just going to stop you right there.
Go for it.
There's no cathode in it. You take the anode and cathode, so they're both anodes at this point. I'm just putting straight into the clay without anything formed whatsoever, and I'm running them until they create that state. There is no cathode in the effect. There is no water in the effect. There's nothing. It literally is two little bars pointed down and starts both of them. I didn't need it at all. That's what I keep trying to tell you. I didn't fucking need it. Okay? It started on its own. It created the tunnel on its own. It didn't need anything from the bottom. There didn't have to be a channel of shit. It literally created the channel. It did it by creating the gaseous state in order to build it and twirl. That's what it did. It was like,
that's what you're telling me, man. You're a good friend of mine. You don't lie. So, if that's what you said, then I believe you. That's cool. But guess what? Take everything we did, including that presentation, rip it up into shreds, throw it in the garbage, call it a spark gap, and that's fucking it. Let's move on.
But it's not a spark gap.
What is it? What is it doing that's different, and why? You just think that you're fucking twirling an anode's arc back onto itself? Like, we're being a little silly.
No, it's not being silly. You didn't listen to anything I said about resonance because you're probably not understanding it properly. What I'm telling you about no, hold on. I'll tell you what's going on. Is that you hear it, you discount it because you keep thinking of your reaction and not understanding what I'm trying to tell you. You automatically dismiss it in your mind and never processes through the proper way because you keep thinking it's your way when I'm telling you there's something different going on. Okay?
Or maybe I'm going to be the dick and say, maybe what you have looks like it and ain't it. Like, I mean, that's possible too, isn't it? Because really, there's no way to tell otherwise, because realistically, from what I've seen, yours resembles nothing like mine or Sean's. To be honest, mine doesn't leak fucking light. Like, Sean's doesn't leak light either. But yours is blasting light and radiation all out of it. So I don't think it's the same thing, to be real.
All right, whatever.
I mean, I'm not saying I don't know enough to say whether it is or not, but the observations just simply aren't the same, and they never have been.
The thing is, I'll be honest with you, man. All you're going to do is add water and kill the effect, and it'll never grow. Because you're not understanding it in the correct path that it's taking. You're putting it on the path that physics tells you it takes, which is not the way it's taking. I have such a fucking problem with that. It's unreal. And it's just not doing some of those things at all. Mm-hmm. And look, you say that they're all so different. I'm leaking light, dude. I got pictures of this thing where it doesn't leak light, dude. It has to do with the frequency you're in, and you don't even understand that. That's what I'm probably saying to you, because if you still think it's the electron connection, then you're not dealing with frequency at all. You're dealing with some person's fucking electron fantasy.
No. Resonance has everything to do with it. It allows for the asymmetric exchange to fall into a separate but equal state. I mean, it's critical. Its critical aspect is the resonances. It's just simply a matter of, like, again, what's it made of, and that honestly, neither you or I could answer that question. But again, there's certain things that promote other certain things, and not because physics said so, because logic said so.
No, it's not. It's because you read a physics paper and they said so.
No, it's not, because I barely read shit, and I barely listen to anybody either, obviously. But it's gotten me pretty far.
Dude, this cat shit behind me, and it's like fucking sticking up my room like really bad.
What would you do?
No, the cat shit.
Oh,
like,
the cat shit?
Dude,
You got cat shit in your studio, bro?
Dude, I got a little kitten, okay? So my wife calls me and says, okay, there's a little kitten in the bushes. I need to catch it. And so Paul's lit me a trap, right? So we got the kitten, brought it here, washed it up, make sure no fleas or nothing. And it's in my garage getting used to the potty training, right? So it doesn't know how to cover it yet. So it's like reeking really bad. It's like you just killed the whole room and I have no window to open. Oh, yeah.
By the way, it's all peace and love, yo. This is we're not fighting. This is healthy debate between us because we hash this out. If you think that these concerns haven't come up multiple times, they've also been eased off multiple times too. Because always in mine Sean's favorite too, by the way.
But by the way, just so you know, if you don't have these kind of discussions, you're going in the wrong direction. Because the next thing you try to do is prove the next person wrong, and then you come up with a different answer, and then we're all screwed.
And to be very clear, this is not adversarial. This dude's my best friend, Like, seriously, if I like can't talk to somebody like this, and it's not Nathan, then I don't know,
Yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah. So,
dude, I gotta. Oh, that's gonna get me after a few minutes, dude. That's bad.
That's insane. You know what's crazy, man? Like I like other people's cats. You know what I mean? You get it? It's like,
yeah, I get it.
Yeah. Like my friend, he has like cats and stuff. Like I walk into his place, I'm like, my God, and he cleans the litter box. It's not like he's a filthy dude, like, but like he's got 2 cats and whatever. But then, one of them's an asshole, but like the other one's really cool. Like, I mean, he's got like a squished in face, you know what I mean? Like really squished in, and he's got like a cut on his lip and stuff. He looks like really alley cat. It's funny because when I moved here, like he told me their names and stuff, and I was like, I'm never gonna remember that. The black one's Tyrone, and this one looks like Nelson. So I just call them Tyrone and Nelson all the time. So their names are Poe and Roscoe. I learned it eventually. I renamed his cats for him.
Oh, that's so great.
Yeah.
Dude, I got 5 cats on the inside of my house, bro. And it's like, dude, it's super clean in there. It doesn't have any smell, nothing. Oh, man. It's just little kittens when they come in, man. You can't put them in with the rest of the cats right away. You got to make sure you go through it and make sure the flea and stuff is a couple times because he's real small. It's like 5 months. So they don't have a name yet.
We should take votes. Can we take votes? Could that be part of a contest?
I don't think you can. Not with my daughter and wife, dude. That's not gonna fly.
Damn.
But no, man. It's a fun journey when you get a little kitten in. You know what I mean? Because we had another one that came in a few months ago, and it was a little black kitten. And I we took the cat in. Thing was all over the place, hanging out on my desk, everything, right? And then this one is like super scarce, so it's like hiding, not yet ready to come out yet and play. Yeah. Yeah, don't be getting excited there, Bernie. Don't even go there. Okay. Yeah, all my
Bernie only thinks with one mind. That's what.
Yeah.
Love you, bro.
All my kids are grown adults, dude. I'm an old man. I had kids early. Yeah, I got two daughters actually, and I have a little granddaughter. So yeah, my granddaughter comes over, man. It's the funnest time in the life, man. Running after her. Oh yeah, that's fun. It's tiring.
Yo, think about that. Yo, her grandfather, old man built.
Yeah. Hey, I told my wife. I says, look, there's a dress on there you can get her that has my face on it.
Yo,
You know what I mean?
yeah. Uh-huh.
I told my wife, I said, what do you think you're getting for Christmas? You're getting an apron with the old man builds on it. That's what you're getting. Or just Joe's face that says things don't do that. You know what I mean?
My ex-wife, she went and bought a whole bunch of stuff with my face on it. I was like, are you out of your mind? It's just like, it seemed like a good idea at the time. I was like, you're gonna wear my face around, and then people are gonna be like, what's wrong with you? Like, you know what I mean? Like,
Oh,
I was like,
dude.
you're literally engaged to some dude. Like, how's he feel about it even?
That's kind of weird. Yes.
I don't even have the damn shirt. But guess what? Things don't do that. So
Yeah. Hey, I got old man. Okay.
yo,
Hey, hold on. Let me show the bottom because you got to say this. I got my, where is it? Right here. My little Tesla
the
coil.
bottom.
Oh my God, dude. Everybody says that. Even my wife. Gee, that's so funny. She said, why did you make a t-shirt with a bong on it? I go, I didn't. I made it with
I'm
a
the
Tesla
Tesla
coil.
coil guy, for Christ's
Yeah.
sake. All right.
Oh, it was so funny.
That's awesome. Yeah. All right. Well, I'm gonna think up some new T-shirt designs coming up soon for us. So keep that stuff going.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I gotta buy some more too, man. I gotta get some to fit. I'm getting big, dude. I gotta get back down again. Every time I
We'll have
turn
to
around.
we'll have to have another contest, I guess. But
Yeah.
so check this out. On what is it? October? Yeah, October 17th. I want to say. Yeah, I might be wrong on the date. That's fine. Is the recording of the next paradigm shift again? And I already got that preemptive email of like, hey, you coming on and showing us some stuff. Like no pull from the hat required. So I guess
Oh, nice.
we're showing some plasma.
Oh, gee, that means we have to get the presentation updated. Oh,
No, there's not going to be a presentation. It's going to be just show the good stuff, and that's it.
let's show the good stuff and that's it.
Show
Couple
the good
minutes
stuff,
of show the good stuff.
and by then, between now and then, the good stuff best get good. That's all I'm going to say. So
it's another audition, is what it is, basically. Kind of
well,
like a little bit better, but
a little better because I don't have to get pulled out of a hat, right? I got the email back
right.
like, hey, you're going to show us? Yeah, damn right. I'm going to skip 60 people online and show you. Of course.
I'm there with you, Joe. I'm just asking.
Yep. So
Nice.
we'll get that together and we'll make sure to get some real good footage and I'll make sure to nuke some more crystals and the whole 9 yards. Like get in there and just do it.
We got to find a way to design around so you don't blow that thing up again for that one crystal you've been working on.
I know how to do it and I just don't have the ability. And it's like, all right, maybe not know how to do it, but I know what it needs to do. And I need more power. I need something to divert it from like what's kicking back up into it, and I need it to be in resonance.
Oh, hey, I got an idea for you.
Those are the three things.
Use water as the break. Okay, just take a little jar of water. Okay, and put the wire in there, and put another wire in there, and run it to the system. You know what I mean? It works the same way. You can still spark things outside of the water as long as you don't put a ton in there. It's like give me a little one.
I got
and
you.
then it acts.
Kick the excess back. Yeah, okay, I got you.
It acts as a capacitance to it. Yeah, so
yeah, but I also need more juice through it too, because it works, but it takes too long. And the idea here is to get it in there to form the channel as quickly as possible without causing fracturing. I know Deadfish said about preheating it first. Guess what, buddy? It's not a heat break. It's not a heat break. It's literally because it's formed inside and
Yeah,
it's
it's
in the
got to make that
resonance and
channel.
it's blowing the lattice apart. It's none of it was super hot, like it was warm, but not super hot. And for the amount of time that I had any arc on that thing, it should have been radically hot, radically hot. But
Yeah, but it cooled immediately when it hit the water once it broke apart.
well, yeah, but not all of it hit the water though.
I didn't see any other color on the screen. Did it? Was it still
Well,
hot?
I mean, it blew toward the camera, which was on my table, a lot of it. And, immediately after it blew up entirely, I turned it off and I picked the pieces up. And, you
Not
know,
hot.
not hot. I mean, okay, not hot. No, it was, let's put it this way. It was under 140 degrees, 150,
You could hold it.
I
Yeah.
could hold it in my hand without it hurting, right? Yeah, so figuring out how to keep it together. Yeah, the idea here is to chew the channel in resonance through the quartz. Okay. I figured out hacky ways to do it, which involves rotary bits. You know, like I could
Okay.
create, if I create a dish at the top, a pinhole that I could get a little bit bigger of a bit through, and then I just sit there and do one of those wrist jobs. You know what I mean? Like, I could literally actually hollow out a small point, um, in the quartz itself, so it could form, and then give it straight path to the cathode. So the connection could be made,
You
and then
understand
a
what you're saying.
bias in the center. But that's not the point. The point is to get it into an intact crystal. So I think that just throwing it into resonance is going to go a long way for that.
I tried chipping the top of the clay and it didn't do anything. The Rav actually avoided it. It didn't want that.
Wait,
It,
what didn't it want?
I chipped the top of the clay, right? Thinking if I put a hole in it, it'll create the anode faster. It avoided that spot at all costs.
So
It didn't. It did not want to be there.
so the way that I've kind of figured around it with the quartz, at least, and proof of concept's already there, is I use a round diamond bit, like it's a ball diamond bit, and when you use that, it creates a cup, not a chip. Okay, so
Okay.
the wrap wants to spit. See, if it's in a chip is asymmetric and jagged, right? So it's gonna bounce around in that, and it doesn't want that. It like
So you're saying
going
you're
out of it.
creating spin while you're doing it.
So with it being rounded and cupped like that, you could get the arc to want to actually entice the spin, which I proof of concept's already there. I've already done it. I've noticed the same thing, by the way, about you know any sort of imperfection on the surface. The arc doesn't like to go to it at all. But forget the wrap. The wrap spinning, it's round. Like the arc doesn't even want to go to it.
Yeah,
So
it was kind of weird. I was kind of thrown off by that a little bit when it happened.
yeah, yeah. I mean, I have a piece of smoky quartz that I've been playing with. And I can't like again because I haven't done it with my Tesla coil. I haven't been able to do what I did with the other piece. But that piece is cupped out, and then in the very, very center of the bottom of that cup, I took a very, very, very fine needle tip diamond bit and just went straight in about like a 16th of an inch, just so it's like divoted in to kind of entice the arc to get rotational, but also to like hit that spot. So, and it seems to the arc will go to that spot, which I like. That's cool. But again, I just because I haven't done it with Tesla coil, no rat. But that piece of smoky quartz is promising because that's already irradiated and it's already got iron ions
Okay.
in the lattice of the quartz itself, which is why it's smoky. It's got irradiated iron ions in it. So I might not even be looking to full blown form a channel in it as much as I am have the arc pave the way between the channel that's already formed. You
Okay.
know, so that's sort of the idea there.
That's neat, man. I honestly I never saw the inside of a crystal light up until you did it. Mostly it's on the outside. You know what I mean? Like you see the arc going around, 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 and then
It's
it
not
like
till the very end that it gets
from the
in.
side. Yeah, it usually lights up from the side where you get a little bit, but never the full thing glowing like that. Like that was like the first time I've seen that.
Well, I've looked far and wide for somebody who's done that as well, and it has not. I have not found that neither on YouTube, which everybody loves to screw around with crystals and plasma and stupid shit on YouTube, whether they know what they're doing or not. There's so much of it out there, um, or science paper wise. One thing I know is that it was not a triboelectric effect.
No.
Wrong color, just not there. It just isn't. It's not what it is. Be cool if it was. I mean, you know what I mean? Like that's interesting, but that's not what was happening here. And the whole thing didn't light up until it got in. You would see it zoning out when it was outside of it.
It
It
was almost
doesn't get through the whole thing to the fractures.
it was almost like you created a mechanical resonance instead of a you know what I mean a pure resonance in it, and it was just kind of
Mhm.
hitting everything in there. You know what I mean?
Well, that's exactly what it was. I mean, energy is energy is energy is energy.
I
And
understand.
when we're talking about oscillation, I mean, I'm dumping huge amounts of incoherent oscillation into the thing. It's like breaking it apart.
Hmm.
Yep, fun stuff. More to be done. I just
More
want to
fun,
stop
more fun.
blowing up circuits, man. Like that's the deal. So I'll have to try that trick because again, I just you know, it's not a big deal. They're not super expensive, but when you blow one after 1 minute or 3 minutes, well, comes very expensive very fast.
Oh, I
And
know. Try blowing CVS boards. Try to test them, Joe, and you're going through two a day at $40 a pop. It you know what I mean? You get this big stack in this bucket, and you're like, yeah, it was a disaster time for me. I spent so much money.
yeah, well, I think for me at least, I need to talk to good old man Builds if I know how to get in touch with them. And I think I need to design a special situation for what I'm trying to do. You know, and I have an idea of what it needs to do and how it's got to be done. Though I think that that's outside of my scope. You know, so we'll talk.
Well, I bet you we can get you a little more power if we took some capacitors and ran them between the positive and negative going in, and it'll level out the energy in the coil itself. Matter of fact, it will give you a little bit more power, maybe about 10, 15% more if we put the right caps in there. I did it on one of my smaller Tesla coils. I just threw them in there and leveled it out and got way more energy out of it because it's consistently feeding it instead of spurting. You know what I mean? Every once in a while you're having trouble with it, it'll consistently clean that up. I think
Yeah,
that's what you
let's
need.
just say that a few of the solutions that I came up with were probably both illegal and you know and also radically dangerous,
Oh,
like radically dangerous. And I'm just like, but it'll work. You
I
know what I mean?
love it. Sounds just like
But
me. Well, it might work. Try it.
like, but I mean, when I'm saying radically dangerous, I'm talking about like taking a drive up the block to like the power station and
Oh
like,
my God, no, thank you.
well, yeah, like yo, I'll get it. I'm sure you want to see a RAV, motherfucker. You'll see it from where you are.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah,
no thanks, man.
yeah. Um, well, I mean, that all said and everything, it's like, and again, it's all peace and love. This is not a hate episode, although I was hating on some people, and I always will. At this point, because I might forgive like Jesus, but I certainly don't forget who you are. Um, you know, like I love what like Mike is doing, with the pyramid thing. You know what I mean? But then like he describes it in this way, and then I'm sitting there like, that's not wrong, except And it's like, I know where the power's coming from.
Yeah, no kidding.
I know where the power's coming
You can't do that in Canada. There's so much trouble.
It's like, it's like, all right, here's, so I love it though, because it's funny because you know what? However you could masquerade the situation, you got me hook, line, and sinker. I'm in. Whatever you gotta say that makes it in the goods, you're good, man. Amen. That's exactly how it goes. And it does not come off the power lines whatsoever. Absolutely.
Oh,
But
nope.
it's great though, because like as soon as I heard his idea, I was like, oh fucking son of a bitch. Like I need to do that. My power bill's very expensive.
Oh my god, dude. Everybody gets in trouble with that. No, thank you. Nothing to do with that.
Mhm. Yeah, just use their energy to pump it from the ground. And then,
Oh, I know. Why don't you go out there with some big, tall light bulbs, dude, and just wave them up and down because they'll light up next to the where he's at. Oh yeah,
lots of radiant energy going on, it's like
I could probably
great.
do that in my backyard and trip people out. Just run around, you know what I mean, with a hand up and a light, and it'll probably light up.
Hey, listen, if you want fast free energy, just drain like 25% of the oil out of a transformer, and then you'll be good to go. You're fine. That's plenty for you.
You know what? It's kind of a crazy idea I had a while back. I don't know that it worked because I don't know that you're turning on water long enough to do it. But if you've simply made a between your water pipe, okay, and the faucet, and you put like a little paddle motor in there or something like that, so some kind of thing to get the spin, then it would spin in there as you turned on the tap and then turn off, you know what I mean, while the water's stagnant, right? But then it would always charge something as you turned on the tap. So every
Well,
time,
if you want to know something, um, there's a very specific geometry and angle that exists that I was super fascinated with for so long because guess what? It's over unity. You see,
mm,
and it has to do with the water, right? But mind you, something we talk about energy, energy and water, they do the same thing. Okay, but
mhm,
my daughter, when she was born, she had the Dr. Brown's bottles, which are the best bottles, by the way. And there's reasons, right? And the parts look like UFO parts. Well, there's reasons, by the way. All right. Well, what does it do? It creates lots of spirals, lots and lots of spirals, and lots of laminar flow, right? So when you go to rinse these parts out, right, there's this tube. It's a choke tube that's kind of like fat at the end, and it tapers down at the very bottom, from a cylinder, taper, and then a very slim tube, and that relieves the gas pressure. All right.
mhm,
Well, when you go to rinse this thing out, if you hit it downforce of the water directly in at a very specific angle of interaction, okay, it will vortex the water exponentially to the point where it sticks entirely to the walls and stays vortex all the way down to the drain and will come out extremely high pressure at the bottom. Now,
mm.
mind you something, that's total laminicity and extreme pressure and full volume coming out the bottom. And then you still have all that water passing by that didn't go in, right? Which could still be captured and used other ways. So you took something and by taking it and then coherently arranging it, right, redirected it in a perfect way with no loss, no splash, no anything, right? You have no loss. If you just go rinse the thing, I mean, it'll blast right out the top. You see what happens? This is our energy usage. It blasts right out the top all the time. It's what do you got to do? Throw it to the ground. Throw it to the ground. It gets burned off as this. It gets burned off as that. Right angle. Fucking inefficiency. Inefficiency. No. If you hit it at the perfect thing, it just simply takes what hits it and spits it out at a higher pressure at the other end. Okay, it's exactly what we're talking about.
Mhm.
Um, and no, it doesn't create a pulsating light bulb, but I'll tell you what it does create. a dead zone in the middle.
Yeah, it
And
does.
you can look straight through the damn tube, and, and only at the point of coalescence where it exits does it, combine, right? So it's got this pinpoint tube all the way down to like the point of maximum compression. What does that tell you about over unity? And right, a null zone, exactly. It's got a null zone. It's got a cavity. It's got a high pressure zone and a low pressure zone cavity in separation. That's the point. That's the RAV. Okay, that's that's the cavitative force. If you take that and you take it from a linear object, right, and you turn that into a ball, it is in a pulse state, and that's the point. You see, because your dead zone's in the middle at that point. It's like, well, wait, hold on a second. Why are you compressing me? I need some room, right? And it goes out, but then it comes back in because of the flow. You get the point. It's the same exact thing. It's a cavitative state. It just hasn't pinched. You got to pinch it. There's another part that looks like a UFO. It's like a round hole in the middle, bigger hole around it, like but it doesn't go anywhere, right? But the hole in the middle disperses out, okay, to the sides. That's the pressure release. Get the same exact thing through each one of those holes at the proper angle of interaction. So what does that mean? Vectoring. That's what we talk about. You're taking a current state and then you're turning it into a rotational vortex state, which is a magnetic state. And then it's coming out linear, totally linear and transverse to its initial thing. Well, what is that? A scalar state. Is it doing it? It's in water. This is why fluid dynamics is critical. Okay, because you can see it with your eyeballs and understand. Like what's like the forces at work in order to go on. It's all inertial. And rock and roll, dude. 5 more people. Who we got?
Nice.
Tracy, Felipe, Caleb, Lucas, and Brad. Welcome aboard.
Right on, man. Yeah, that's cool, man. Yeah, he said Negative Reds Coils said that they used to do that in the UK the whole time on your water line. Put it in a little thing in there for the channel so it gets the energy out. See, that's the way to go, man. Look, that's free. I mean, that's free because you're paying for the water to come in, so you already paid the bill. But the extra energy is kind of free. You know what I mean?
Hold on.
No.
So where I live, right? The water is included in my rent. So as long as I use cold water, well, what does that mean? Does that mean I should just leave my faucets open?
Joe, no, you can't. Oh, that's so funny.
What is wrong with me? Listen, I don't know. I mean, there's a list, I'm sure. But
Yeah.
ain't nobody got time for that shit.
Oh. Yeah, I watched Robert Murray Smith. What is he in England? Yeah, I watch that show a lot. Oh. Jeez, dude, that's so funny.
Yo, you know what I hate though is like how some of the charlatan people and stuff, how I feel like they're just like some of them are operatives. And that super annoys me.
Oh, they are. No, they so are operatives, dude. There's people out there just piss me off all day long, dude. They're total psyops, dude. Big time.
Like handful of people come to mind, and you know what? I ain't been pissed off to the point of naming names yet, but fuck with me. I dare you, and then I'll eviscerate your work with this false shit. I know that. And guess what? I'm a peaceful, loving person. But, there's just certain people that say the wrong things to me. And I'm an honest person who does this out of nothing, for nothing other than the goodness of his heart. Like, and the love of doing it, friendships, camaraderie, and seeing it through to the end and saying it all along the ways. The disagreements, the agreements, you get it all, you know?
Yep.
And the people that aren't like that but say they are, well, you know, like no problem. You got pinched and then you got placed back into you know, into the environment, I guess. You know, and it's like, yo, just leave me alone. And
No, no,
I'm not a paranoid person. I can give a shit less. How do you like that? Like,
no, because you can see them a mile
okay,
away.
like, you know what I mean? But like, sorry, certain behaviors.
Yeah. So funny because I see them too, man, all the time.
Mm.
It doesn't take much. Yeah.
I do like how Sean definitely legitimately made ball light. That I like. It's
Yeah.
still in a vacuum, but you know, I think that that's like the RAV, how it requires certain things to stabilize and form. I think that ball lightning probably needs that same vacuum type environment to form as well. So that said, you know, I give a nod to that, but you know, that should be dancing around because it had some room to go. You're like, "Ooh." I was
I
like,
I think ball lightning's rare because the environmental conditions only show themselves every once in a great while. I think that's all it is.
you need lightning that is robust enough to create sustained cavitation. So it's gotta like do more than the strike, right? And the same, okay, and the reason that I've been like kind of hating on your whole ideas here so much is because of what I see. And what I see is lightning. And the lightning, it doesn't strike nothing, it strikes potential. It pulls potential because it needs that potential. Without the potential, it doesn't strike shit. It's a live wire hanging out of the wall. So
No,
the idea here is this, right? Um, you know, it's got to be able to connect with that, but then also have like uh, enough potential on both sides to like keep it open. You know, got to keep it open, and then when it keeps it open and it goes away, well, then you have that little orange piece in the middle that like stays, you know, or whatever.
well, okay. So here's the thing: if you get around volcanoes, now the rock that they create is not the same thing, but it has a cavernous structure.
Oh yeah,
Okay, but also under the earth, there's all kind of tunnels everywhere. So because the water created them or whatever, there's all kind of tunnels. So if it's a cavitated state that it finds and it agrees with it, you may get something funny happening. That's all I'll say.
well, yeah, you might too, and I don't disagree with that at all. I mean, listen, I'm a huge proponent, and one of the first things I talked about on this channel, being a huge proponent of, is CME. Um, you know, CME is more present than we ever give credit to. Um, and you know, realistically, it's the major natural like capacitor and amplifier. Like it just has the ability to take in whatever energy's in it and just have it fall into that well state where you know that neutral force could just become um, held in abundant and in coherence. That's sort of it.
Mm.
But you know, remember something: if you have one, you could have them all. You know, but the way that you build these things, I think, you know, is like where they start to leak. That's what my observation is. You know, so like there's certain components like it's just about a balance of components. Like these components have to be balanced to a certain extent, right? If they fall within these lines, then you're going to have it all, right? We all know what it all is. Now, where it falls on that spectrum is what you get in the highest efficiency. That's how I feel about it. You know, it's like there's probably like a nice mid grade balance section there where like you truly do have it all, you know, and it's all usable. But where that line is, well, I don't really know, and I don't think anybody really does. But at this stage at least. But I'm eh, talking about things like time dilation is hard, right? Like I was talking about that earlier in my experience. And I could like show you the video and you'll see the blinking and I could tell you what I saw when I was there. But what does that mean? Right? And we could talk about the lights and how you could light up a bag of fucking LEDs, a bag. You know what I mean? Off of just having them fall into resonance with the radiant field, right? And then you calculate it all, and you're like, "Oh my fucking god, how much energy I've made!" But did you? Right? And like once you realize that, like none of this works the way that you think it does, but it's all related. That's where the connection comes in. So when Nathan and I had our little, put our boxing gloves on and get in the ring before, and we're talking about things, I'm just sitting there trying to say, I don't even know that I disagree with you. I'm just not sure that we're looking at something that looks similar or the same, but it might not be similar or the same, right? And that's sort of what it is. It's just about this proportion thing, because once these proportions like switch a little bit, all of a sudden, well, you get a little bit more of this and a little bit less of that. And that's where I stand on it. It's sort of like nobody's wrong necessarily, except for the fucking charlatans that try to tell you that lighting a bag of LEDs is over Unity. Or that jewel thieves like are over Unity. That's fucking full of horse shit. That's like some communist bullshit. Listen, it's like what? Let me tell you. You're a bunch of Eskimos. I got some ice to sell you. But man, like. It's all peace and love until it's not, I guess.
Wow. Okay. I knew that where that was going. Wow. Yeah.
I'll show you some memes.
No, that's okay. No, we don't need to go there.
No memes.
Not what we need to do.
Next week, we'll see.
Oh man. I just like to see it, dude. You know what I mean? I want them to continue on. But oh, it's so great. I see some people, man, they're so excited about it, right? And like, or you go to these channels, they get excited about the math and they have no idea how something functions, and they're like, oh, but you could do this in the math, but it doesn't function that way. No. Yeah, I get that a lot. Or resonance is right in front of them and they just totally bypass it. And you're just like, dude, okay, I'm not coming back to this channel. I have no use for this. I won't be watching it again. When they do that, dude, I'm out. And I don't care how much physics hates you. If the answer is truth, tell it. You got something special, show it. If you don't, forever hold your peace.
Hey, listen, high efficiency, I'm going to say it until I'm blue in the face because I'm contradicting myself and I think it's funny. But high efficiency is beautiful. You know what I mean? It's not an unworthy cause. It's actually a hugely worthy. It is the most worthy cause. But the thing is that, like, to actually achieve the pinnacle of that, everything must be in that state. So yes, can you get improvements of? Absolutely. All day, and that's cool, and I like that. Then call it what it is. Because guess what? There's no shame in efficiency, but pretending like you're pulling vacuum energy, or pretending like you're creating cavitative states, or pretending like you're opening something up that just simply isn't there. You don't know what it is. You don't know what it is till you do it. Because when you do it, you're going to be like, "Holy fuck! Oh no, things are different here." This isn't some like, oh, look at me. So this is supposed to run off of 9 volts and it's running off of 1.5. Like it ain't fucking like, come on. That's the biggest load of shit I ever heard in my life. It's stupid. I'm fed up of it. And the people that do it are bad people, frankly.
Hey, you know what the test is, and you got to know this. Not some little cheapy motor. You got to take some motor that pulls some juice and hook it up. And if it passes the eye test, go on to the measurements, okay? If it doesn't even pass the eye test, dude, you don't have a chance. And that's the real answer to me. When I do it, we'll do the lighting test. If it passes, great. I expect most of them to. We'll go on to a motor test. If you don't pass the motor test, dude, you're done. It's just not the right thing. And it probably was never meant to do that. Like, you know what the biggest party trick of them all? Remember the Rodin coil when I spin the magnet? Okay. Okay. That's like the biggest party trick ever. I'll tell you why.
Biggest party trick.
It's like 5 volts, and all it matters is if you had the resonance, because the fields will cancel each other out if you had too much of an energy put into
Right.
it. Okay?
You needed the self-modulation to sequence in a way. That's what you
That's
need.
it. That's it.
Uh-huh. Right.
So what I did was I go, okay, so we'll take the Rodin coil. I put it in my geometry coil. I put it in my bifilar coil. I put it in the number 1 of a Tesla coil. And then just for the hell of it, I took the thing and set a potato. I emptied the potato out, put a little bit of soap in there, and then put the actual magnet inside the potato as an eyeball inside of it, and just sat it right on top of my my bifilar coil, and it just spun it like crazy. And you know what it was? It was all the same shit. It's a party trick. It took me maybe 30 minutes to just cut because I had to move things in and out. But that's how long it took me to do all that.
You don't know the mental anguish that I was caused watching the initial test of that a year ago. Literally not on air, screaming into my phone with no clue how it worked whatsoever, no clue what to do to make it work, no intuition whatsoever to even mark your pulse. And I'm just sitting there saying to myself, like, you know what? Like, help you. Can we help you? Help you? Help. And it's like, nothing. Nothing. Total crickets. And you know what? I just sat there with my hands up in the air. And you know what? I'm not right. You know what I mean? Like, most of the time, I'm not. Like, I literally, and I say it all the time, and I swear I mean it. Like, I don't know shit. Like, I make things up as I go along. But it's fared well for me. It really, truly has. Because, you know, I could honestly say and also show, you know, instances as well, you know, like exactly what we're talking about all the time. Like, just show it. And, you know, not just talk about it. And, you know, like, there's no secrets here. Like, high strangeness, want to see it? I got it. You want to see the video where the fucking thing was going like this and the whole room was? You know, I sent it to Old Man, and I have it on my phone. I could give it. It's fine. But you know what I mean? Like, there's no secrets here. We're telling the truth.
Yeah. Well,
It might not look like I experienced, but I assure you, I'm not a liar. So,
no, I agree. Look, I agree. It's just, dude, I still find that thing was funny that I'm sitting there spinning these magnets all day, right? And
it took you 15 minutes to tune, bro.
It was the same parts I was screaming to myself the whole time. Just buy these parts and you'll be okay, right? It's less than $10, right? And it was like, dude, how long is it gonna take for you to figure that out?
All right, listen, I don't even know the parts. Like, and I'm good on you for that. But what I was seeing in my head was this and then this. And I was like, slow it down, watch it back. Okay, where's your sequencing problem? Where's that fault? Where's the frequency issue? Where you got to fix? You have a cancellation thing. So have you get like, yeah, you either have a mind or you don't. You're either trying to, like, and it's like you say, you get frustrated with me saying I follow science, man. I follow my own head. I don't fucking listen to anybody. Look, the whole idea is, it's like you see things, some things work, some things don't, right? Well, when something's going wrong, slow the fuck down for a second. Like, literally, watch it back. Be like, well, what? Where's that? Okay, now how do I backtrack? You know, there's got to be some kind of train of thought. But the thing is that at the end of the day, you already know what's happening because you have, like you said, you know, you have this spiralytic cancellation flow of magnetic potential, and it's creating a pseudo magnetic field. It's a magnetic field, but it's like modulated, right? So it's a modulated magnetic field with cancellation zones. So what do you need? Well, you need that spin rate of the ball and the attraction rate of the ball to be able to fall into resonance ish with like the equivalent of resonance, right? With the cycling of that pattern. And that's it. This is the difference between, like fucking certain trains of thought that go in one direction that are just like it's the wrong direction, and then other trains of thought that like are open to all directions and see all that, and then choose the path. It's when you're not predisposed to choose the path, then you find the answers. When you're predisposed to it's this path, this is the right path, you're never going to find the answer. You're too stupid to find the answer. That's it. It's like I ain't got to be fucking 5'2", 200 and fucking bald to figure this shit out. Like got to be me or you or the other like-minded people in our chat.
Yeah. Huh. That's funny though. People like the party tricks too. Oh man. It's just when you see behind the curtain, it gets old pretty quick. You're like, okay. Because you know what I did, Joe? I put the whole thing away. It wasn't like something I wanted to show every week because it was like, well, that was just too easy. Like it became something I shelved. You know what I'm saying? It was like, okay, I showed it. I'm done with it. I'm over it. We're out of here. Some people are beautiful at this. They take something so simple and they scream it to the world until everybody knows it. And I don't have that capability, I don't think. You know what I mean? Like, I found this party trick and now I got to show everybody.
Listen, I'm king of overcomplicating shit, which is why I took something.
You are.
Right. Oh, absolutely. But you know what? Like all those overcomplications have led to like really good learning experiences, Like sometimes like right in the right direction and then other times like in the wrong direction, but that's valuable too. And that's it. I think that just like the whole key to it is to at least have open enough of an understanding and vision, right? To see that there's so many different ways to achieve the same ends, and to also understand that it's like the difference between a party trick and not. Like again, lighting 1 million LEDs that fit into the field of something that's going to throw them into resonance. Okay, is not over unity. Okay, that's just dispersion of energy and the usage of it. And the measure of it isn't calculable in the same sense, and it does not amount to the same thing. And people and their minds don't conceive of these things because they see the work being done as the means to the end. But when you realize that you couldn't kickstart every single one of those at the same exact time, which is what their original ratings are based off of, which is what you're basing your outcome of, it's diluted, it's incorrect, it's wrong, and that's it. And also like using the same fields, storing in a cap, and then dumping it to do the same thing for a finite period of time doesn't equate either, because you're doing the same thing in reverse. I think you're just right. You're just manipulating time at that point in your favor.
Well, once you say it, you have to run it till it dies. It's really what it is. You know what I mean? And then you have to see how long it got. And either there's an efficiency rating or after 5 days you give up because everything's still at 100%. You know what I mean? That's pretty much where you are. And that's where I would draw the line, at least. Maybe other people go a little longer, but that's okay. But if you go 5 days and you don't have to turn the thing off, number one, some of the stuff, if you put on for 5 days, you got so much strangeness going on, you'll never make it to 5 days. Not because it won't do it, because you don't want to be around it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I agree. Well, listen, I said the same thing. I was like, yo, listen, I saw great results and cool results and interesting results, and I don't want to be around it. Turn it off. It's bad.
Yeah.
Period. And you know, is it fundamentally bad? I mean, well, maybe not, but like I'm just like a dude in my apartment. You know what I mean? Like for me, it's bad. Like like if I had the proper things in check and balance, maybe it's not so bad. But like in my context, it's bad. And you know, for what it's worth, and maybe this is probably going to trigger you a little bit, and that's okay. I'm down with it. I've done it enough today anyway. But you really want to shake the ground. You really want to piss some people off. Figure it the fuck out and don't break any physics. Because guess what? I'm under the belief that all the higher physics, the quantum physics, all this stuff, all that stuff is real and in play, but not the way that they say it is. Okay, but when you look at fundamental basic physics, okay, you could actually like do everything you need to do, accomplish the means to the ends, and not break those laws. I mean, who are you pissing off then? Everybody. Pissing off the guy that's looking to break all the laws and prove people wrong, looking to piss off the people that fucking are stuck to their ways and won't look outside the box. What happens when the outside the box is inside the box because the outside the box is, the inside the box is outside the box? Well, you're thinking in 4D, not 3D anymore, and you realize that the inside, the outside is all the same, and it's connecting the dots that matter. And that's, I hate to say it, where I'm at. And that's honestly why you gain frustration. I believe in know about one wire energy. I believe in know about the ability to transfer energy without a receiving source and the ability of the circuit. Same exact time, right? What comes around goes around. It goes full circle. There's a lot of things that, like, the way that I see it is outside the box looking in, and that's the craziness, right? That's the craziness. Like sometimes you realize that what you see is what you see, but what there is what there is, and those might be two very different things. Um, and but like that's like the fundamentals that I actually like to live by, based on not the physics, but the fact that the good physics, the basic physics, stuff that we all see day to day, right? That's undeniable. There's things that we see that are undeniable because they're true.
Well, hold on. I'll say this. When you dumb it down to like a fifth grader's level, I think all that's trash. It's bad
Well,
examples. It's
none
not
of us
real
here are
physics.
at fifth graders level, brother.
No, hold on. I just want to say, because a lot of channels that do that. Okay, I think that's garbage physics. When you describe something that you know is inherently wrong, that's garbage physics. A lot of theoretical physics is garbage. Okay, a lot of it.
Oh, I'm so
There's
good, please.
there's
Oh
like
my God.
there's a top
Theoretical physics? Oh,
no, there's a top 10% of physicists who have seen it all and can write it backwards for you if you wanted it to. Okay, I 100% agree with that. Okay, but I think normal people trying to understand what they're trying to say is very difficult because you come away with the wrong example. You come away with your biased example versus what they're actually saying. And I think that's the problem we get to, because I truly believe that people at the top know what they're talking about. I think people's biases get in the way and they explain things in the way that they see it through their lens. And that screws people up. And then people get in the sheep mode where they just go, bah, bah, let's follow, bah.
that is perfectly said, because like the truth of it is that if you just look at the basics, just the basics, and I'm not talking fifth grade level, probably like college level, okay? Like I didn't never went to college, but I'll tell you what, we're probably college level, you know. And then you take those basics and you start applying it, but logically. Okay. And this is where the separation becomes. Okay. You start taking those fundamental principles and start applying them logically as opposed to calculate. And then all of a sudden, the whole world unlocks and you start to be outside of the box. And that's the point, right? There's certain things, right? Like, for instance, and one of those certain things, and the reason I've been so like staunch on it, right, is that without some kind of mutual relationship with an anode, okay, there's no art. And it's not a follow me that. That's just simply it's a fact. It's the live wire hanging out of a wall. It's got nothing to connect to, right? So some relationship always has to exist, even when you bring it into its own state. There's always got to be a reverse side to something, and that was always the idea with Rav, right? In the beginning and like continuing is that, well, whatever happens here has to happen there, but when there's no there, where's there, right? There's certain things that could happen on one side of the equation and not necessarily on another, but then where, right? So that's sort of the balance of it. Very hard to claim an equilibrium, of anything without there being another side. And that's where it kind of comes from. See, like, and it's not to get back into this debate with you. It's not. The point is that you only come to these conclusions by looking from outside the box in. Because realistically, the way that they put it is that, well, I mean, without the connection, it doesn't happen at all. Well, I mean, that's not what anybody's saying. It's going to come from something, right? And that's sort of the point. It's in my opinion, it's a beautiful point because nobody's wrong in it. You know what I mean? Like, neither you nor I nor anything else. But it just means you don't always just simply trust your eyes to what the eyes are not need to perceive. And that's all. That's where the understanding really comes from, is not trusting your senses. You trust your senses on some things, or maybe apply it in a way, but your logic is always going to be the thing that perseveres because your eyes lie. The testing equipment doesn't always pick up stuff that you're. Sometimes it's what's in between.
I agree.
But there are fundamental truths. And some of the fundamental truths are like that, for instance, which is that the wire hanging out of the wall doesn't connect with anything that's not there to connect with. So that's sort of where the irony of it all kind of comes in a little bit. It's like,
Well, I think the wire on the wall is a little bit disingenuous because of the way that energy works. There's not enough voltage to jump off the wire. You know what I mean? Only in that aspect. That's all I'm trying to say. You know what I mean?
well, I understand that, but I mean, at the same exact time, you get close enough, it will, right? So something's got to give, right?
I'll tell you, I hooked in the circuit
Something's
wrong.
got to give, right?
I hooked in the circuit wrong, and I gave that. I was the light bulb. Yeah, I've done that before.
I mean, and I have too, and it's an unfortunate circumstance, and like that's just sort of how it is, right? I mean, it doesn't go to nothing, so and something doesn't mean touching, so something's there. So that's the question. That becomes a new question. I always say, and my number one saying, and it's been for a very long time, way before I'm the person that I am today. Okay, is that answers are easy, questions are hard. Answers are easy, questions are hard. Welcome to 2025, and I would have told you this back in 2007. The same exact thing. You could find the information or the answer to anything you want, provided you ask the right question. Like finding the right question is the hard part. So when you start deducing a lot of things and saying, okay, no, but when, well, that gets you down to closer to the right question, right?
Mhm.
I don't know. little bit of 2025 philosophy and wisdom. It's that answers are easy and questions are hard.
Yeah. Well, by the way, the energy I was talking about was just the voltage has to be high enough. Like I think it's past 600 volts in order for it to jump off the wire. That was it.
Good jump. Yeah,
No,
that's high.
that was it. Past that sucker's going to jump and get you. But in the other state, it'll just sit there until you get close to it and then touch it, and then it'll zap the living daylights out of you.
Yeah, you got to remember something that the voltage and frequency are on a curve, and the higher the frequency is, therefore the higher the voltage. They're equal in that regard to a certain degree. You know. Right. Reminds you that insulators aren't, right? Insulators are only ever an insulator to a certain point.
Oh, yeah,
So,
that's true.
the one thing that people like kind of tend to forget a little bit is that you could run a whole lot of amperage and with a regular old insulator on it and be like, I, but you run a whole fuck ton of voltage or high frequency through something and you have an insulator and it's like RF Corona,
Yeah.
like
Get that purple on the wire or blue. Yeah, I got that a lot.
so. Again, this is an observation. When you make these observations, you make mental note to self. What's an insulator? Well, an insulator is great at keeping in the high and low boys, okay, but ain't so good at keeping in the fast ones, okay. And that's the idea. Why? Because everything's defeatable. Things are only insulative till they're not. And I guess that's where all the values come in as far as how insulative something is. It's also why you could drive ions through a rock that's semi-porous when it's properly configured, and the same thing with the clay, right? But it's also why you could do it to a piece of quartz, which should be otherwise a total insulator and otherwise impermeable. But once you get the density levels high enough and you have enough of a relationship between point A and point B, you can start to do your drive deal. And
So
that's it.
What we should try to do is get a piece of lava rock, and because it's so porous, it's got a bunch of tunnels and stuff in it. There's already a preset like frequency to it. I wonder if the rad would form under that condition.
I mean, I think it would.
It's completely the opposite of what we're looking at, kind of.
No, I think that it would, except I think for different reasons. I think that because of the large porosity, and the kind of semiconductor, like at those energy levels, glass is a semiconductor. It's not. Dude, you get it? Do you get it? Glass is not an insulator at these high voltages, high frequencies. It's not, right? So it becomes what? A semiconductor. Okay, so you have glass, a semiconductor, large porosity, lots of room to go, lots of room to deposit. It's going to go right through.
I'm just curious to see, okay, if anything forms. That's it. Any result.
I think so. I mean, whatever would come would. I mean, I think it would come.
Yeah. I mean, different.
Bend your knuckles at the. Make sure.
Let's stick with the rocks.
You got to get the curl, like a little rub, but then up and down. It's like both things at once, Steel.
All right, Joe. We'll stick to the rocks, dude. We'll try different ones.
All right. Well, spit on it, get a homunculus. The whole lot. The homunculus ends up looking just like me.
All right.
But
I think we're getting to the end of the show, guys. We're going way off track. We're way off past left field. If you understood that part of the show, wow. We'll have to change the whole name and dynamic of what's going on.
You know, like the part about it looked like me, but acted like my mother, like his mother. Like what? What did it? What canceled this?
All right, guys, man. I just want to say Thank you to Darren, man, for the 5-man build membership. You're awesome, brother. I throw out 5 as well, man. Totally cool. Tonight I'll be on Traveling Fools, guys. So anyway, that's it, man. We're all out of here. Have fun thinking about what we just came up with, or what Joe did, I should say.
It's all peace and love, unless you're a communist.
The old man Bill. The old man Bill. The old man Bill. The old man Bill. The old man builds is broken in the head. People not seeing reality has put them in the red. Where conscious and spirituality been stricken from the norm and replaced with the ignorance of basic magnetic form. The geometry of God keeps running through his head. That's what makes old man builds broken in the head. The old man builds. The old man builds. Spheres of destiny are spinning in his mind, making him travel back and forth in time, battling the establishment for just a little recognition. Has him forcing the world to understand his premonition. That world will have all the technology in the end, even if it means his life will fail to instead. The old man builds. The old man builds. The old man builds. The old man builds. Fears of destiny are spinning in his mind, making him travel back and forth in time, battling the establishment for just a little recognition. Has him forcing the world to understand his premonition. That world will have all the technology in the end, even if it means his life will fail to extend. The old man builds. The old man builds. The old man builds. The old man builds. Fears of destiny are spinning in his mind, making him travel back and forth in time, battling the establishment for just a little recognition. Has him forcing the world to understand his premonition. That world will have all the technology in the end, even if it means his life will fail to extend. The old man builds.